Now we're recording. Thank you for the reminder.
Sure.
Yes. Okay, guys, welcome to Breaking Into Design, Career Planning and Portfolio Development, week 3. And we'll go ahead and jump in. Jay and I are going to be your guys tonight. Brian is doing some stuff with his wife, and so we'll go ahead and walk y'all through tonight's class. We're going to do a quick recap from 6 to 6:15, portfolio peer exercise. Again, you guys are going to get together. Like Ethan was talking about, you're going to talk through those stories about your portfolio. We're going to do an interview recap, coffee break. Jay is going to go through the weight exercise for you and story stacks. We'll take another coffee break. We'll go through micro expressions, job questions, and we'll do our wrap up. And again, end with any burning questions y'all might have. So you know the tools we're using, our quick recap. So you guys had networking revisions, your homework revisions to your branding statement. You guys should have all, I like Maggie's nod, yes. Using your template, your networking template to help very quickly demonstrate to people who you are at glance. Resume revisions. You guys got into groups and you hopefully got together during the week, kept reviewing your resumes and really tightening those up. Portfolio peer review, again, going through portfolios and you know, again, talking through that conversation about stories, about your portfolio and how to talk through that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. But good job. I've been seeing things uploading and I'm loving that. Your homework, imposter syndrome questions. We'll be talking a little bit about that today and about how that went in your groups during the week. Interview questions. I know we don't give you enough homework in this class, right? So how did those interview questions when you're going through and thinking that through? And we'll again take questions on that. So again, anything that pops up in your head, you know, please bring those during those sections of class or at the end of the class so that we can get those burning questions answered for you.
Were we supposed to answer those interview questions? Was that a part?
I tell you, well, what I told you a week or two ago is that I tried to answer every one of those questions myself. Many I couldn't because they were too Google or whatever specific.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me a lot of confidence going into interview sessions, knowing, I mean, yeah, it took hours. It took hours for me to go through those things, but man, it really helps you be confident about thinking through, oh, this is coming. And
oh,
so,
I just meant like, were we supposed to like have something
turned in? No.
Did it? Yeah. No, I'm definitely, those are like in the back pocket to go back and spend time on, but
excellent.
You know, portfolios and sick kids and, you know, life.
Very good.
Has taken precedence.
I hear you.
One step at a time, Bill, one step at a time.
I know. So
okay.
This homework says 2 portfolio sites uploaded. Really, truly, we're looking for the one major site that you can use and talk through in interviews. Ethan was talking about, I got 3 other projects or more. Man, that's fantastic. But getting that one that's rock solid, you feel great about talking through, that is your main goal. And then if you want to build and add more, fantastic. Love the enthusiasm. Okay, to go back to Brian, a dream without a plan is just a wish. We're not going to do wishful thinking. That's why we are getting stuff done. So we are going to talk about the peer portfolio review. And man, I'm going to ask, did you guys get in your groups? And let me stop sharing and so I can actually look at the screen. Did you guys actually get in groups? Give me some head nods. Did you get in groups and talk? And how was that? Anyone turn on your microphone and give us a little shout out.
I thought it was really eye-opening just because like I feel like
we're probably not used to really talking about ourselves and really like talking positive things about ourselves. And I think having to practice saying, you know, like our branding statement or like go over like our resume, it really helped like solidify like who I was and what my values are. And it made me like think what I can improve on when I'm like selling myself to a company.
Awesome. Thanks, Lone. Anyone else? Oh man, no one wants to
Well,
share?
I've got a lot of work to do still, but I've actually put some stuff together. So when we met in the group, I didn't have much to share, but I'm getting there.
I'll tell you what, there's nothing like getting in a group during the week and going, oh crap, someone's putting putting things on me and I gotta get caught up. So that is great. You guys are meeting during the week. That is fan-freaking-tastic.
So,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead, Bill. I stepped on you.
No. Go ahead, Jay. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys may remember this from intro class, but how do you get good at anything?
Practice, practice, practice.
Next. Research, research, research. And last,
Not the
Your
user.
user.
Network.
Not the user.
network, network, network. Yes, yes, network, network. And you are not the user. That's good too.
Not the
So
user.
yeah, so it's that practice, 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 research, 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 network, network, network. These activities that we're giving you meet all three requirements, right? Because what you're doing is you're doing exploratory research by figuring out how you sound and how other people sound when they're trying to answer these questions. Unless you guys get together and practice answering these questions, I know a lot of smart people like Ethan and Alex are going to answer these questions in their head. But when somebody else asks you these questions and then you try to respond, completely different situation, right? So that's why we're really pushing this. Now, Bill, should we tell them what we've decided?
No, Jay, I'm gonna let you.
Okay. All right. So Bill and I had a conversation today. Brian wasn't going to be able to make class because he's taking care of his wife. So send positive vibes to him. But Bill and I decided we are going to invite people to the last class, okay, for you guys. However, that does mean that, next week we don't have class. And then the following week, that means y'all need to show up really well, because the reason we don't always invite people is we don't want to invite. These people are volunteering their time. They're not getting compensated. They are willing to spend 3 hours to help give you advice and guidance. If you don't have anything to show them, if you aren't prepared for this, that reflects badly on us. And then they may not want to continue to come back and do this again. The reason a lot of them are agreeing to do it again is because they really enjoyed speaking with you. They have something to look at. Imagine if you're in their shoes, right? We're kind of trying to be empathetic. We asked you to a class, Oz, and then you were looking at a student and a student shows up with nothing. And now you're in a room with a student with nothing to look at or talk about, right? What would your perspective of that class and that student be?
This was a waste of time. I'm not doing this next year.
Right? I mean, we're just being real about it. So that's why we need you to buckle down and really, take this time this next week to put in some serious time. And you not only have next week, right? Because we don't have class, but you have then that another week. So you have 2 weeks to get as much done as humanly possible. And that network component is maybe not 3 of you get together. Maybe it's only 2 of you. Find your buddy and you guys create some work sessions and knock this out. Just GSD, right? As Brian likes to say, get stuff done. right? And that's what we really need you to do, because I'm putting my reputation on the line, Bill's putting his rep on the line, and so is Brian. And you really don't want to upset Brian, right? I'm just we'll just say that out loud. So any questions about that or comments from you, Bill?
Yeah, I got a quick, I just want to show of hands, who all stumbled when they were going through their branding statement, talking about themselves or talking about their portfolio? Anyone stumbling or, you know, like, oh, wait, yes, thank you, Alex, nice. Maggie, head nod. Janie, yes. Shauna, awesome. Sherry, yes. Guys, this time to practice is your time to stumble. You should be,
Right.
so that you know where you can go back and fix things or what you have to practice on. So, and I highly suggest each of y'all think about using this exact same time to get together in your groups and use that entire 3-hour session to really work on telling your stories, your portfolio stories, your branding stories, all that stuff. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to jump back in. So practicing, practice. We've talked about that. So you guys are, oh, actually, I got to create breakout rooms. This is on me.
That's okay. You do the breakout rooms and I'll kind of talk folks through this. So what we're going to do in this class is we're actually going to give you some time to do some mock interviews with each other, right? And you're going to switch the roles, right? So you are presenting your portfolio or what you have, and then any follow-up questions, right? So we're going to switch back and forth. I think Bill, there may be a room with like 3 people in it. Is that correct?
Nope, we have an even 12. And
Okay,
so,
awesome.
So I'm putting just 2 people in a room each. And that way
Okay.
you guys can, you'll have 5 minutes to present to each other and then switch. And hopefully you're not in the same groups. And if you are, you'll be comfortable. But if not, you'll be a little more uncomfortable and get to stumble through this again. So again, 5 minutes each. Do I have any questions before we start?
So, and again, just to clarify, we're going to put 2 people in a room, right? And they're gonna, one person is going to go, then the other person is going to go, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
10 minutes.
And so 10 minutes each, right?
10
Or
minutes.
10 minutes total, 5 minutes per person. Okay,
Yes.
that's right. I just want to clarify that for
I
everybody. in the
appreciate
room.
it.
Sure. Does anybody have any questions then?
Yeah, I have a request.
Sure, what's up?
Can we go into groups with people that were not in our course class so that we're not basically running through the same thing each?
Who was not in your course class?
No, so I'm sorry, I mean like in our course class group is what I mean. So like Oz and I were in the same group and we're going to be running through the same thing.
Okay.
Is that Ethan?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let me do a quick switch around. Oh,
I mean, if it's too big a deal, that's fine. It was just
No, let's just read through the groups then, Bill, and make sure everybody's okay.
Jane and Sarah, Ethan and Shauna, Maggie and Oz, Lone and Sherry, Alex and Aurora, Chris and Tamara.
Everybody okay with that? Okay.
Okay, cool. Then I'm opening the rooms and you guys jump in. Welcome back, guys.
All right. So I'm gonna hit to the chase. How many people felt like that wasn't enough time? Raise your hand. Okay. You're wrong.
Isn't that nice to hear from your teacher?
You are wrong.
You
Okay,
are
so-
wrong. Wow, that hurts.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time. It would be the last time.
So how many people tried to go through and read everything and talk through all their points on their portfolio?
Nobody? Oh,
At
Lone.
first,
Yeah.
I think we did.
Okay.
But then we
So
started,
what you're going to do is you are not going to do that. You're going to do, how many people remember trying to do a 1 minute readout? Remember when we did clustering?
It's
Right?
a 2-minute readout.
No, well,
minutes.
1 minute playback. Remember, after it's a 2 minute readout,
Oh, and
but
then
it's a 1 minute playback. Remember, after a clustering or
Yeah.
affinity mapping exercise, we say, give me a minute, right? You had 5 minutes to do that for your portfolio. Now, if you tried to go through and tried to read things or do a tour, right? This is not a tour of a house. This is not, you are not trying to show them every nook and cranny, right? You are giving them a global overview of some of the things that they have an option to dig more into, right? And if you're trying to do more than that, if it's a half-hour interview and you can't show them quick things in 5 minutes, think about that you're how much time you're chewing up of that interview, and they're not going to have a time to really ask more questions or ask you other things. Everybody
did
get
anyone
that?
else really struggle with like stumbling because you were trying to figure out what is important to touch on versus going through it all? Because that was like the difficult part, at least.
So Bill has an idea. Talk to it, Bill.
Ethan has his hand raised. I want to hear it real fast.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it doesn't need to be during class. It can definitely be after or some point over these next 2 weeks. But Bill, I'm wondering actually, you've linked your portfolio. We've seen a lot of stuff that's in there. I'm wondering if you could maybe give us a 5-minute readout of how you would do your portfolio.
I don't even have to show you my portfolio to do that.
Okay.
Here's the deal, guys. Okay, so thank you. And Chris, if you have another question after this, I'll be happy to call back on you. But here's the deal, guys. Your entire project is very deep, 16 weeks. What are you proud of? What are you proud of? So here's how it's choose your own adventure is what I would call this. So hello, Mr. or Ms. Interviewer. My name is Bill Ward. I'm a UX strategist. I'm so glad to be here. I'd love to show you my portfolio project that I did at SMU. So I am really excited to talk about wireframes. I love doing wireframes. I'm sorry, I should have started off. This project was about, okay, now I gotta go back and remember. This project was about connecting, oh crap, you put me on the spot, Ethan. This project was about connecting angel investors with small investors to make a more egalitarian way to invest in startups. Okay. Now I should have said, but what I'm most excited to show you is I love doing wireframes. So I'd love to show you that. I really enjoyed the research aspect and interviewing people. And I also really enjoyed testing my my Figma prototypes with users to get input. So I can talk through my entire story, or I can focus on areas that I really enjoyed. Ethan, what would you like me to do? Where would you like me to start?
Right.
I talked for more than a minute, but I could have done that in 30 seconds. And you would choose the adventure, Ethan. You would be the one to say, you know what? I'm really interviewing for a designer, but I need people who understand research on my team as well. That's where I want you to start.
So Bill, put me on the spot.
Okay,
So,
Jay.
so you're the interviewer, all right?
Jay, tell me about this project and why I should hire you.
Oh, thanks. That's a great question. Well, first of all, I appreciate the time letting me show you my portfolio today. What I'd like to do is really look, I have 4 various projects here, one of them being Spacey, which was a really exciting project with a company that's actually here in the DFW. And then I have these 3 other projects, Acorn and BuzzFeed, that I could walk you through too. If you'd like, I'd like to tell you what I was really excited about with BuzzFeed. Sure. BuzzFeed is a new social media company in which they consulted with me on some design strategy concepts. What we figured out was there were some big pain points with their customers, and they were losing like $10,000 a week. We figured it out. And I'm more than happy to go through the details on it, but that's the kind of thing I love doing for my clients, and I've done continuously for my clients. And those are kind of artifacts that I'll go through. We've done prototypes and some of the methodologies.
Under a minute. Under a minute.
Right. So Ethan, I'm gonna do this again. You be the interviewer. Be hard. Come on, come at me.
You know, Jay, I had an opportunity to look at your portfolio. I'm not sure I really understand what Acorn is, and
Sure.
what role you played there. Could you talk to me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Acorn was a group project that I did through the SMU CAPE certification program. I had an opportunity to work with a great team, and we developed an idea in which young investors could get their future planted just like a tree with an acorn. And so what we wound up doing is we wound up doing all through the design thinking methodology. We came up with prototypes, wireframes, did independent research. We're able to get prototypes that we tested with users, got feedback, and iterated on those prototypes, and then gave a presentation at the end. And so I've compiled what I've personally done and my roles on that. Happy to walk you through if you'd like more details.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
So
Do
guys,
you want me to ask you more questions? Oh, okay. Sorry.
really fast, do you see a pattern of what and that Jay's using similar to anything else you've learned in this class? Think
He
about
can
it.
sell ice to an Eskimo. It's the I can sell ice to an Eskimo method. He's good.
Maybe
That's
that
what
it's conversational.
Conversational Eskimo, I don't know, but that's interesting.
it's like very he like you feel good, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, my question like was meaningful to you, you know, like I feel like, oh, thanks, like.
Okay, well, thank you, Alex. That's awesome. But there's something else that you've learned in this class from week 1 that Jay is kind of adopting that pattern from. Do you guys recognize where that pattern is coming from?
Oh, is it the ending in the question?
And there's another word for it.
But am I close?
It's the branding statement. Hello, my name is, I'm happy to meet you. I do this. I did this project. I'm proud of these 3 things about this project. Would you like me to tell you more about any of these things in this project, right?
But
Very-
did it sound scripted?
No, it sounded genuine.
Right. So
And
if let me show you how to not do it. So Maggie, you get to be the interviewer.
Ooh, okay. Can you tell me about Acorn and what you did on that? I don't know.
Oh, Maggie, thanks for asking about that. That's actually one of my favorite projects. I had an opportunity to go through the UX certification course at SMU. So it was a team project. Team projects can be kind of tough, but this one was actually exciting. I had a fantastic team. What I've laid out in my Acorn presentation is all the things that I actually participated in and was able to go through with my team. We actually talked to users as we're developing. Acorn is a product that allows young investors to get started in investing early. So just like an oak tree, at the end of their life, they have a really big investment that they can show and security for them in their retirement. In my project, I have wireframes, we have prototypes, we actually talked to people, and then we got feedback and then iterated on those prototypes. Happy to take you through that and show you more.
And I was holding up my fingers because he just hit the titles, and then it's like, Maggie, what are you interested in? What would you like to talk about first? And you could just say,
and you know what I didn't do though, is I didn't do the wrong one. I jumped right into doing it the right way. So let me So let me reverse because I can't help myself. It's like who is it? The basketball players that make the 3-point
That's
shots
not
because
it.
they just do it. So let me do wrong. Let me do wrong, Jay. So you get to, so you saw me how to do it again. Right. So that was a good example. Now let me show you wrong. Go, Maggie.
So what was your favorite part of working on the Acorn project?
Acorn project. Oh yeah. The Acorn project was a project I did with SMU Cape, where I got my certification. I was on a team project, and we did a lot of UX stuff. Some of the UX stuff was design thinking, and then I worked with my team. Oh, did I tell you what Acorn? No, I didn't tell you what Acorn was about. Okay, so Acorn is about, it's an app, and it's about investing, and it's for young people, and they really want to do good, in later in life. And so it's like a tree and an oak, right? And that
I'm going to pause you right there because you're making me cry. So, but yes, and you guys should pause your teammates and classmates for the same reason, right? When you can't hear it anymore, go stop, reset, let's try it again. But how do you get good at this?
practice, practice, practice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do it. It's that unconscious competence. You do it so often and so well that when people put you on the spot, boom, you can just do it automatically, right? And that only comes from practice, practice, practice.
And so again, guys, you want to let your interviewer choose the direction of the conversation so they're involved, they're
Yeah.
engaged. That's hugely important, okay? So any questions about this?
We're going to try this again, right? We're going to give you another round.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Did that help? Thumbs up. Actually doing those examples and some role play. Okay,
Awesome.
good.
Opening the room, same rooms, jump in there and kick some ass.
Cycles through projects for new and intermediate users of or UXers to be able to jump on projects throughout the year, which is really cool. I got chosen, I got lucky, and then we started working on a project called Cadena Wallet, which was about cryptocurrency wallets, and they were just starting out the project. They were needing to build out the wallet and research the users and everything, and I got lucky enough to be able to help them do some exploratory research on new users. And I think one of the coolest things that we found out was from the new users is that I was also a new user to cryptocurrency. And so learning the lingo and also just being able to put that in, be in the perspective of the people that I was interviewing, coming from a new user standpoint was just really cool. And what I was learning versus what I had thought a week ago.
Stop. Awesome. But you're doing the introvert. Now I've got the funnel going.
Mhm.
And what you want to do is you want to get that key point. You want to talk about something cool about the project and say, I could talk about this forever. I'd love, if you'd like, I could do a deeper dive or tell you more. Right. So that way you give the interviewer an opportunity to cut off, because they're never going to want to interrupt you. Right. But if you keep talking and remember when I did what I did is I basically said, this is what I kind of did. This is what I love. Here's a cool thing about it. I could talk about this all day. And we can go into a deeper dive if you'd like. Then what have I done? I've given I've given control back to the interviewer. As Will said, they're the choose your own adventure. You don't want to eat up all your time. I mean, think of it as a date, right? Who wants to be on a date where all they did is talk about themselves? The best interviewers I love is, and this is a trick, this is a J shoe trick. is I get the interviewer to talk about themselves. They always ask me, "Well, do you have any other questions?" And I go, "Actually, you've been great, Chris. What I'd really like to know is, how'd you get in this company? What's your background?" Right? And they go, "Oh, well, thanks for asking, blah, 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 blah." Right? Because then what happens is if you can get them talking about why they like being at the company, or what are some of the positive things, how they got hired, how long they've been there, talking about themselves, they're going to walk away going, "Man, that one guy was the only one that asked about me. Who do I want to work with? Somebody that only talks about themselves, or somebody that actually was asking questions about me?" And that's going to leave an impression, which is going to give you an edge up on the other candidates. Right? So if you use up all that time, you're not going to have that time at the end to do it. So that's how I've learned how to be very succinct in my answers, be excited, passionate, but succinct, and then give them the option to say, "I could talk about this all day. Happy to talk more about this, or another project that I have that you're interested in. What would you like to do? What would you like to do?" And then I throw the ball back to them, right? And you've seen us do with Bill and me and Brian. I'll say, "Back to you, Brian," or back to, even in our classes, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm trying to get the point I want to get across to y'all. And then I say, "Okay, Brian has other stuff he needs to say." And so I throw the ball back to him. That's a facilitation hack. And it's also a conversation hack and an interview hack, right? But what you're doing is you're being mindful of how much time you're taking in the interview process. What we were talking about before is introverts have a hard time getting started. But then once you get excited and started, you're so happy that you're actually talking that you don't stop. You just keep adding and both Tamara and Chris both practice with me, and that's one thing I said. You just want to tell a cool thing or two, and then pause and let the interviewer kind of see what they want to do next, right? So you're not that date that just blah 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 blah. Cool. Does that help everybody?
So my question is, did this second round of interviews go a little bit? So I'm seeing some head nods. Didn't even finish my good. What could help make it even better?
Word choice.
More practice.
Practice.
Oh,
Practice. Practice. Yes.
Why do I say it 3 times?
Because people remember
So
things.
power of threes.
Power of 3, yeah.
Not only power of 3, but it
dirty.
reinforces the idea you can't just do one of these. You can't just do it 2 times. You have to do it at least 3 times or more. And most people, when y'all are practicing, most only do it once. They'll get together on a Zoom or do it, one thing, and then they'll try to do it again. And remember, your classmate you're going to be less nervous with than a new person. So practicing it a few more times with a classmate and getting it solid, that's how you get good. It's just how you make 3-point shots in basketball. You just do it until you have unconscious competence that I wanted to do a bad job and I forgot, and I just did it the way I naturally would do it, right? So that's that thing, is you just get in there. And I'm not even doing my A game. That was my B game. I kind of hit the rim a little bit on that one. But the idea is practice, practice, practice. Yes, Shauna. Do you have a question? No. Okay, you're just moving your hand.
You're at the
All
top.
right. Yeah, we're at the top of the hour. I think we went a little bit over with that. We may have to catch up on some. No, we're good. Okay, good.
Oh, I got a few slides, but I'm good. Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll get through it.
Okay, so 10 minutes. Is that the deal? So 7:10. We'll see you back. Grab some coffee, something to eat, whatever you need. We'll see you at 7:10. All right. Let's talk to the next slide.
You got it. So can you all see my screen? Yes, great. Okay. So again, we're talking about common questions. Take me through some of your favorite pieces. The subtext, what are you passionate about? What are you proud of? Do you like challenges? Maybe you guys learned Figma. Shauna's, yeah. So it's like, did you learn something through the process that you really engaged you? Those are the kind of things to really try to bring out when you're discussing your portfolio. Strategies, practicing in advance. We talked a bit about that. Don't just show pictures, talk about your collaboration, as Jay's been talking about, and show your passion. Oop. And then tell me about your design process. What is your design process? Why is this piece different? How do you present yourself? Remember, you're on stage. And so how you engage with your interviewer, the excitement level, and it needs to show. Your strategy is talking about research, design, usability, maybe it's pain points. You love discovering pain points, bringing that out. Explaining how you made adjustments, describing collaboration with others, explaining how you validated your design, and then showing how your process has evolved. So those of you with multiple projects might be able to do that, or multiple iterations of wireframes, let's say. Here's how I learned something and changed things, okay? So trying to bring all that into your interview. We had Q&A before the break. We took our coffee break. And now we're going to talk about things to do during an interview. So definitely get ready with pencils and notes, because Jay's going to take you to school.
All right, so we've talked about this a little bit, but it's really about finding your way. So it's really understanding who are you and what it is that you're actually telling people about yourself. So obviously, people want to know, what opportunities are you seeking? They want to know what you love to do, what you're really good at, and then you should have a couple stories that literally talk to your strengths and talk to the things that you're passionate about. So remember, I've talked about that in a little coaching. You want to have a couple things after you tell those things. Time to be quiet, time to ask them, hey, I could go deeper, or what would you, what else would you like to know? Next. So this is really important from the network perspective. Who you know gets you in the door, but what you know keeps you there, right? And who's going to get you in the door a lot of times are people in this program, people friends of friends. So the broader network you have, the bigger the network you have, the more opportunities you're going to have for finding gigs and jobs. Next. Before you talk, you want to listen, you want to think, and then you want to respond. Internally, you should be asking yourself, why am I talking? And then you need to be thinking, who am I talking to? Is this a person that I'm going to be working with? Is this my direct boss? Is this their boss's boss, right? That they need to get approvals on hiring. So think about why you're talking, think about who you're talking to, and what roles or questions they might have with regard to you and bringing you onto the team. Next. So why am I talking? This is something I struggle with, to be quite honest, because I'm a talker. And if I let myself get going, then I will talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. So I have to still ask myself, why am I talking? Next. So who am I talking to? This is really important. You need to understand, are you talking to a dev person, a product person, another UX person? Why are they in the room, right? And really just continue to say, what are they wanting to understand about me before they make a decision to bring me on board? Next. So understand who's in the room. Let's say we have these three folks in the room. I am going to talk, Shauna, I'm going to pick on you. Who are we looking at in this room? This is, you're in a
I know
room in an
Jason.
interview. Okay, you know Jason, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so who are the other people in this room?
Well, I would have probably look on LinkedIn and see where they went to school and see if we had any things in common.
Okay, all you know is what you know right now. And look on the slide. What do we know about these folks?
One's a designer and one's a CEO.
Okay,
So
and who is Jason?
Jason, and Jason's the
He was, we know he has a new job, but yes, he was the
yeah,
chief.
and he would be
empathy
like
officer.
the design lead, like the like the lead UX person at the company.
Probably. Okay.
Also-
So, okay, that's good. So Ethan, how are you going? I'm going to switch. Ethan, how would you address each of these folks? What does Michael want to know?
From me, like an associate coming in as an associate. He
What's he
probably
looking for?
He probably wants to know why I have an interest in the company that he built.
Okay, what is he going to be looking for as a yay or nay, whether you come in?
Culture fit.
Right. Okay. What about Caesar?
Caesar would probably be my manager's manager. So team fit and similar kind of design mentality, trajectory, whether or not I can fit easily on the team from like a personal perspective, but also from like how fast will it take to ramp this guy up to how we're running things here.
So technical proficiency as well, right? It
There you go.
design chops and technical proficiency. Yeah.
Much easier way to say that than what I said.
Sure, no worries. So Jason, what do you think he's gonna want,
Oh, kind of like my dogma, like what drives me and why I make the decisions that I make when it comes to my work.
Yeah, that's good. So understanding the roles and who these folks are, and when they ask you questions, the subtext of those questions, and that's why Brian and Bill went through all of those questions so you guys could have an idea of at least a direction on what that subtext might mean. Yes? Okay. Any
So-
questions on this? Yes, Alex, go ahead.
Yes.
Could we maybe like quickly just see like between you and Bill, like act out like one person be the interviewer and one person be the interviewee, what those like questions in real life sound and look like?
So I tell you what, write that on a sticky note and let's save this for after hours. And for anybody who's interested, happy to go through and do a mock interview kind of thing on that.
Can I ask a quick question before we move
Sure.
on?
Yeah.
If we're seeing chief empathy officer, Shauna, you mentioned like the UX of everything. That's what it is now.
No, Caroloop was an interesting
I didn't know
company.
what that was.
So
Wait, chief empathy officer?
yeah, he was the chief empathy officer.
What does that even mean?
So Caroloop was all about a company for helping people who are taking care of other people. So Alex, you'd really love the company. So they help caregivers find resources that they may or may not be aware of to help with elderly patients or elderly parents or elderly, sisters, brothers, cousins, maybe even kids, right, who are having issues. So, something you can relate to. And Jason was there to make sure that they were essentially doing user-centric design. So think design thinking, making sure that empathy comes first, making sure that, their processes and their designs are taking into consideration the pain points of the people that they're trying to solve for, right?
So kind of like Mr. True North.
Right, exactly.
It makes sense,
Exactly.
especially for a company whose mission is and money is coming from, supporting caregivers. If you're not, it can't be like market dark BS, you know what I mean? It can't be market driven. Like it just can't.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is actually a wonderful summary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So did that help, Ethan? Okay, good. All right, next. So one of the things that we're practicing is, and we always practice, is active listening. One things you want to do there is be open and unbiased. A lot of times, or as much as possible, we're always biased in our perspectives, but you want to try to be mindful of it to try to be as unbiased as possible. You want to hear literally what they said, but understand, and this is number 3, that they may mean something else. And then you want to act on what you think that meaning may be. If you see a colleague and they're kind of tearing up, and you ask them, are you okay? And they said, yeah, I'm fine. What do you know about that situation?
Not fine.
They're not fine. Now, are you in a role, if it's a coworker, to act on that?
Mm-mm.
It depends. It depends on how well do you know this person? Do they feel comfortable with? Are you friends, right? Are you just coworkers? So you might say, hey, listen, just putting it out there. If you need to talk, we can find a room. Happy to support you. If not, I just want you to know, I hope you feel better, right? That type of thing. You're acknowledging they have been seen, right? That may embarrass them a little bit, but at least you supported them. And they're also now aware that other people are probably noticing that they're not okay, right? So you've kind of given them a heads up that said, hey, listen, it's pretty obvious you're not doing well today. So, so it can be interesting, but active listening is super important when we're listening to our users and our stakeholders. Next. Also, this is how you can acknowledge that you are listening and using active listening. You can paraphrase. You can listen to the other person and respond to how they're feeling. You can validate, right? And then identify. I kind of went through that even before this slide, right? When I gave that example, I said, hey, okay, you're saying you're okay. I notice, that may or may not be true. If it is, I just want you to know that I'm here for you. If you need somebody to talk to, and then just want you to know I care. I care enough that if you want to talk to somebody, I just want you to let you know I'm here for you. That type of thing, right? And then that's it, right? I paraphrased, I've observed, I've validated, and I've identified that I feel a little bit that they're not doing okay, and I care enough at least to offer, right? They don't have to take me up on the offer, but that's the deal. So I'm taking that one scenario there. There are multiple scenarios, multiple feelings, multiple emotions. They could be frustrated, they could be angry, they could be, all those emotions that we talk about. Those are possibilities. Next. Elements of voice. Tone, pace, pitch, modulation. You know about all of these from being in our classes. Especially me, I use my voice as an instrument, right? I'm constantly thinking about my tone, my pace, my pitch, my modulation, right? When I'm speaking. If somebody speaks to you in a monotone voice, the 4 elements of voice are tone, pace, pitch, modulation. You should consider your attitude when you're doing tone. That pace is your speed. I mean, can you imagine sitting here for 3 hours listening to me have that kind of voice the whole time? It would, you know what it would look like? All of you would be doing this. Right.
But it is important to be able to have, like, utilize empathy and sort of the ability to judge, because some people, for instance, like my husband, and he could tell you himself, like, he's on the autism spectrum, like, you get it's flat, you know what I mean, like it is
Flat affect.
yeah, there's an incongruency, and so, and there's many people that are that way, and so sometimes it's not always, so that's where
Hence
empathy.
why I'm doing the coaching, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be doing the creativity, innovation, and neurodiversity coaching, because I recognize neurodiversity folks that are neurodiverse have a more difficult time learning these skills and need to be coached. But they can be coached, they just have to be aware of it. Again, sidebar, but great call out, Alex. Next. So to be a good communicator, right, you have to understand your content. We were talking about that earlier. When you're going through your portfolios, you gotta know your content backwards and forwards, right? Because knowing your content really, really well on your website is an expectation of an interviewer, right? When I was doing the bad interviewee, it sounded like I didn't know what I was talking about, right? And that could be nervousness and other things, but know your content. Next, right? You want to put your message into words. If you know your content, you know what you're passionate about, you know what you're like, make sure you can put it into words and be concise, and then be aware of how much space you're taking up and time you're taking up to say your messaging. Next. So then you're transmitting, you'll be thinking about all those things we talked about in the previous slide: tone, pitch, right? How are you communicating this? Are you being excited, right? And then also pay attention to the body language of the person that you're communicating to. If they're reacting well, you can keep that up. If they're like being startled, you might want to tone it down a little bit. I have to do that from time to time. I know, surprise, surprise, but yeah. And then decoding is where this comes in, right? You need to look and see, how is this being, absorbed? How is my messaging, connecting with the people that I'm talking to? And if it's not being taken well, it's the responsibility of the communicator to adjust their communication, their tone, their messaging to help people. Alex, at the beginning of this call, sounded like she had a communicator that was not very good at decoding what was happening here, and so didn't handle that as probably at best that person could have. Next.
My dad always telling me to stop yelling at him, and I'm like, yelling at you? Like, I'm not yelling at you. Like, because I'm like excited about what I'm talking about. I'm passionate, and he's like, stop yelling at me, and I'm like, wait, I'm yelling at you? Like, I thought we were having like a pleasant conversation. So perfect. I'm laughing because it's very relatable.
Yes, and you need to practice, because if your dad thinks you're yelling at, other people may too. So back to you, Bill.
So guys, you prep for the interview questions, and then they ask, tell me about an instance where you overcame a conflict with another coworker. Interesting, huh? So this is not going through your portfolio anymore. What is this about? Chris, what do
Yeah,
you?
you personally relate to other people. Oh, sorry.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Working on a team. How do you fit
Nice.
in?
Yes.
How you handle conflict. They probably could care less about exactly what the conflict was about, but more so how it was handled.
Wonderful, Alex. Yeah. So they're trying to figure out, and guys, how do you, it doesn't really matter, like Alex said, it doesn't really matter what the conflict is, doesn't really matter what the story is, but how do you tell it? How did it end? And so you really, so when you think about this, you maybe want to be thinking about happy ending for both parties, right? So that it's not like, well, I just had to say I can't work with them anymore, and now I'm here interviewing with you. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good signal. So you're really trying to figure out what is that happy ending I can talk about when I've had conflict? What have I learned from it? Right? Tell me about a time when despite your best efforts, the project you were on failed. Why did it fail? How did you handle it? I'll tell you what, personally, I haven't had a ton of absolute drop dead failures, but I did have an interview where they said, you're on a project, and that project, if it fails, it could cost us tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. How do you mitigate that? And I'm like, I've never had a project that, that I, it's like I've always been really involved in my projects. I'm there at every step. I make sure that I'm conversing with the person who I need to be conversing with to make sure things are running through. And they go, well, we work with developers from Romania and Poland and India, and the project can go tits up like that. How do you handle that? And I'm like, well, I love conversations, and I love to throw up a flag early with my boss. If I hear things are not going right, I'm going to try to get some expert opinions on answering that. But I felt very put on the spot. And you maybe too. Jay, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, so I've been on lots of projects that have failed. A lot of times it wasn't due to me, but that's because I'm a perfectionist. What I will do is I will say that I think people didn't consider variables and timeframes that were needed to achieve the ultimate outcome. And I think people were optimistic as to how long things would take. And then they ran into technical or content issues that really threw them for a loop. In these situations, what I did is I managed the responsibilities that I was in charge of as best I could, and was able to offer up solutions that we were able to at least deliver something on time that, while wasn't the expected outcome, did meet many of the requirements and allowed a successful situation despite being a complete failure, right? And so I was able to help with that because of my creative problem solving that I bring to the table, right? So what I did is I said, hey, listen, this thing that failed wasn't necessarily on me. But once I discovered the situation, I was able to say, okay, what was the impact? It was this and this. How do I handle it? I said, we did the best we could with what we had, and we still delivered something, right? That was the
And
deal.
it
So
come off negatively if there's no accountability. Like in some cases, are
sure.
they looking for like not what others did, but like your ability to reflect on what you could have done better? Like how do we
So read the question.
Tell me about a time when, despite your best efforts, the project you were on failed. Why did it fail? How did you handle it? I mean, I know the why.
What is the question they asked me?
You mean like
A
the
project you were on failed.
Yeah.
Why would I, in an interview, throw myself under the bus when they didn't ask a time when I failed? They asked when I was on a project that failed. Why did it fail? I answered it because people misjudge the literal things. How did you handle it? I was able to offer up creative solutions in which we're able to deliver things. So I presented myself as a problem solver. If you want, as an interviewer, not my job, I listened very carefully to what they asked me. They did not ask me, when did you fail? They asked me, when you are in a project that failed. It was an opportunity for me to showcase I was a creative problem solver and still delivered something in spite of not, having it be a complete failure.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was very specific.
It's
Right.
a kind of like a tricky, it's a tight, there's a, you know what I mean? There's a fine line between like just completely avoiding the question, like blaming somebody else, you know what I mean? And then like handling it like you just said. So that makes more sense.
I
You're like-
answered, if
like-
you think about
yeah.
it, I answered every single question
Right.
perfectly,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
They asked, were you on a project that failed? Yes, I told them. Why did it fail? I gave them those variables. How did you handle it? And what I just told you is like 90% of the projects that go south. It's not because of me. Because I'm in forefront, I think about everything that can go wrong and I try to anticipate. And you can ask Bill, I'm the first one to raise my hand and say, I think this could go wrong, this could go wrong, this could go wrong, this could go wrong. How are we accounting for it before we even begin this thing? And those things are called pre-mortems from HBR. So Harvard Business Review calls it pre-mortems, is when you think like that. Now, be warned, nobody wants to hear about how a project is going to go wrong. Everybody only wants to hear about how it's going to be amazingly successful and everybody's going to be happy. So you could be perceived as a negative person or a negative, Nancy, that's probably incorrect, but
A Karen.
yeah, or whatever. But just be mindful that is occurs. Anyways, I know we spent a while on this slide. Let's go to the next slide, Bill.
You got it. So two superiors of equal status have just told you to turn in a large project in the same time frame. You only have time to do one. How would you handle the situation?
Bill, can I jump in and answer this one for you real quick? Okay, so this is probably one of the trickiest situations you can find yourself in. Two bosses of equal weight, two VPs have asked you to do a project in the same time frame. How I would answer this is I would say, sir, or ma'am, I am happy to help you and support you as best I can. I do have to let you know that your peer VP so-and-so has me working on this project that occurs in the same time frame. I will do my very best to juggle and do it, but I did want to make you aware that I'm going to have divided attention during this time frame if I work on both your projects. And that then I've assessed the situation. I've given it to them. I haven't said no, I wouldn't work on it. I just let them know that somebody else got to me first, right? That is at your level. And if I'm going to work on your project, I've already said yes. And if I say yes to you, I'm going to have divided attention. Right. And then after that, I would tell my boss immediately, my direct boss, and say, hey, listen, I just got asked by another VP to do this thing during the same time frame. I may need you to provide air cover for me or figure something else out. Right. Because I don't know if I have enough bandwidth to actually do the best job I can for both of these guys during this time frame. And then my boss can figure out how to handle it with them. Right. But these are the tricky questions that you sometimes handle. And that's how I'd handle the situation. Is that the best answer? I don't know, to be quite honest, but that's the one that makes the most sense to me. And that's how I've handled situations like this in the past. I had a boss that asked me to do 5 things at the same time. And I asked him to prioritize it. And I said, can you let me know which is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? He goes, they're all number 1. And I said, cool. What's 1A? 1B, 1C, 1D. And he literally laughed and said, okay, this is 1A, this is 1B. But I mean, I gotta know. I mean, I got 5 things. They all can't be 100% the same priority. You're gonna want one before the other one, so let me know. Right. And so you have to be creative.
Nice.
Bill?
Nice. I'm going to pick on Lone. Lone, I want you, you've just heard 3 questions asking about some difficult situations. What's the commonality? What are you feeling from this?
I think these questions, they're basically asking like how you handle situations and how would you go about it. And what you really want to do is kind of like tell them like what the situation is and how you learned from it. And then, but yeah, just, and then also don't throw yourself under the bus, like Jay said.
What kind of stress level do you think jumping into this job is going to be like?
Sounds like maybe a 9. Because it
Yeah,
sounds like you
so
can have like multiple projects at once. And then there's a lot of expectations of you to get things done quickly and also timely.
so yeah, so you're probably not going to get a lot of learning on the job. You're probably going to have to jump in with both feet. And you can tell there might be a lot of churn in a job like this. There might be a lot of stress. And so they're giving you clues as to how the company operates. And you want to take that into account when you're interviewing, when you're negotiating money, and when you're thinking about your own personal health. Okay. And so that's just so when they're really focused on these kind of things, you can tell, yeah, it's probably a very stressful place to work.
So one of the ways I would do is I would say, if I started getting these things, I would say, okay, I know this is a salary position. How many hours do typical employees put in every week? And what is the expectation of working on the weekends?
Nice. So good tips.
Right?
Good tips.
Because then they're saying, oh, well, we only work 40 hours a week. And, every now and then you have to work on the weekends. That may or may not be true, but then you bet your money if I get an opportunity for a follow-up interview or talk to some of my peers, I would say, well, hey, just I'm curious, how often you had to work on the weekends? And if they go, every now and then, I'm like lying, right? So look for those the body language and micro expressions, which we're gonna talk about next.
Thank you, Jay.
So story stacks. Some of you, I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but story stacks are those collections of stories that you can drop at a moment's notice. You know them backwards and forwards. And if there is an opportunity to communicate what you've learned or communicate an idea, you can tell that story right away. In facilitation and presentations, I have tons of stories that I can tell you at the drop of a hat. And where do I get these stories? Some stories I have heard from other people. Some stories I have read in a book, and some stories are my own personal stories and experiences that I can tell. You should work on developing your story stack, because you never know in an interview process when somebody's going to say, tell me about a time when. And you should have some stories that you can tell. As you're practicing with each other, make sure that you ask some of those questions in the mock interview. Tell me about a time when ... and then you fill that in and practice seeing how you respond, right, to those kind of questions. Bill?
My quick story is that I got into teaching because I did not want to do web design when I was working in advertising. And so I go into teaching, and then I realized instead of teaching what I knew after 20 years of design, I had to learn all this stuff that students needed to learn in order to get jobs. And then to get a full-time job at the Art Institute when we moved back to Dallas, I had to learn web design, the very thing I tried to avoid. So this story is not just about uncomfortability and about pushing things away. It's about, oh, wow, I have to lean in, I have to adapt, and I did it. And so the story is not just a negative, it's like how I turned a negative into a positive and how I embraced it ever since. And so that's my go-to story for my story stack. And so, you know, think about your life, think about things you can pull from. Alex, you've talked a lot about your life. You've got a lot of story stacks in there. You've got a lot, and all of you do have these. So keep that in mind. Jay, anything else?
Nope, I think let's go forward.
Okay, I think we're over to me now.
Yep, sir.
Micro expressions of body language. So let me get this thing out of the way. Okay, good. Anyone can have a bad day. The interview, in the interview, a hiring manager could have anxiety, fear, misunderstanding, ignorance, anger. You never know what they went through before they came into the room with you. And so you're really trying to look at, you know, what kind of vibe are they giving off? Sometimes it's not about you, right? It just isn't. So you look for those expressions, but then again, it could be you. Sometimes we give off, our anxiety can make people anxious, right? Oh, I'm nervous. And then they're like, oh crap, I got to calm this person down. They're you know, they're looking all over the place and blah, blah, blah. So you have to and come in excited. Man, I'm excited. I'm a little bit nervous about interviewing for a new job, a new position, but man, I got an opportunity. I'm pumped. So, you know, what kind of energy can you give off in your micro expressions that shows, you know, you lean in, right? You're like, oh man, I'm so excited to be with you, excited to hear what you're going to ask me. Let's do this. So your micro expressions, they go both ways. We have to learn how to read micro expressions. So the 7% rule, I'll tell you what, I didn't know this before this class. It's amazing. 93% of communication is not words. So Albert Merhabian published a book called Silent Messages, in which he discussed its research on nonverbal communications. Think about what you're doing when someone talks to you. 7% is hearing those words, but we're looking at them, right? So 38% of it is really the body and the voice and tone, and 55% is their body language. I had a kid who interviewed, C-D student. When he was in his interviews, he was leaned back like this, and I'm almost wanting to go scream at him, what are you doing? It was like, impress me. And you're like, you're interviewing. Oh, when he got out of that chair, I was like, dude, you have to be engaged. You have to lean in. You have to show energy. You can't lean back in a chair in an interview and just, yeah, I'm going to take this in. No, his body language said, I'm not engaged. And watching that will kill you as a teacher, as an instructor, it'll kill you. So when you're talking, they're really focusing on your voice and tone and your body language more than your words. Show that, project that engagement. Jay, do you want to add anything to this? No, okay. So body language, how humans and animals convey information through conscious or subconscious gestures, bodily movements, or facial expressions. Broad usage are a conscious replacement for speech. I'm in agreement, right? I don't have to say I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement. It reinforces the speech. You guys see me use my hands. I'm like, it reinforces the speech. Mirror or masking of mood. Sometimes we might use it because we've had a bad day, and maybe I got to use my hands to distract you from Jay reads my anxiety like like it's a book with 24-point type. It's huge. And he's like, dude, you're kind of stressed today. And I'm like,
Jay's an empath. Jay can feel it before he even sees you. It's an empath
yes,
thing.
it's so annoying, but he's really good at it. He's been teaching it for decades. So yeah, I just got to live with it. But I try to mask it with my hands. It sort of like hopefully takes his eye. Of course, it doesn't take his eye off. He knows me. But it's like sometimes you can engage with people and show your excitement through your hands as well. So anyway, learn to read the interviewer. Be on the lookout for certain forms of body language and facial expressions that give you insights to how people may be thinking or feeling. And so, Sherry, I want you to turn on your microphone and tell me about the lady in the turquoise.
Oh my gosh.
How excited are you to be interviewing with her right now?
Well, she does not look impressed at all. And she almost looks like she's disdainful of the person across the table.
Wonderful wording. Wonderful. Yes. I would not want to be in that young lady's chair right now. And so she's got to figure out how to change the conversation, right? And so this is what micro expressions help us do, is they help us understand, I may be going off the rails. I need to figure out how to fix this. What are you thinking? There are certain individuals who are naturally less expressive and difficult to read. There also may be a tendency to misread these individuals and make assumptions into their inner feeling, dialogue, or true feelings. Jay, how do you get around that?
A lot of times when I run into people that I can't read, even being an empath, and there are people I can't read, a lot of times what I do is I will ask them questions directly and see how they respond. So I'll say, are you excited about this project? And they'll go, yes or no, or they'll, do these different things. Yeah, Chris, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, is it appropriate to be able, if you notice these micro expressions from an interviewer, to not really call them on it, but just like, hey, I noticed that you're kind of looking this way or feeling this way,
No.
Okay.
I would not. Oh, no. In an interview situation, I would say it's almost never appropriate to read the person and express that you are reading something.
Only in your current job, Chris, not in corporate America.
That's why I'm confused.
Yeah. So
Literally your job.
Yeah, no, the in corporate America, people don't like to be read. I will 100% tell you that people do not like to be read. And in fact, as an empath, people get surprised when I know how people are feeling, right? So what you can do though is you can use that information and then adjust your tone, your emphasis, your subject matter to reflect it. Does that make sense? To try to get a different micro expression from them. So that's how I would use it. I would not call it out. That's a great question. Yeah, never call it out in an interview. I see you're very angry or confused about my portfolio. They're gonna go, no, because no human being on the planet likes to be read. As a very young empath, I got a full margarita thrown in my face because I very accurately read a gal on a date, and she did not like the fact that I knew stuff about her that I wasn't supposed to know. So no, yeah, don't do that. Learn from Jay. So next,
And
that was
Chris,
their little story stack. Yeah, see, I just pulled that one out and shared it with you for a lesson.
and so we know it didn't apply to interviews or dating. So just
or dating, that's
check
probably
mark
never a
on
good
that.
idea there too, unless you want to use it as a skill set. But anyways, next.
Thanks, Jay. Oh, I didn't fix the slide. So
That's okay.
people can be difficult to read. So basically, people who are expressive or outgoing may have high EQs, emotional
Intelligence, yeah.
It's emotional intelligence, yeah.
Thank you.
Quotient.
And they can mask their true feelings. True micro expressions cannot be controlled. The nervous laugh and fake smile is the most common form of masking. And so when we look at this woman, how do we respond to this? And Lone, I'm going to go to you. How do you respond to this?
Wait, to her picture?
This lady, yeah.
Personally, I would just smile back and like give her the same energy. But even if she's not giving the same energy, I would still try to be like my usual self, which is like, smiling and happy and like still have like a good conversation with her because, you never know what's really going on with her.
That was a perfect answer. When people are trying to mask, they're purposely trying to not reveal what's going on underneath. And so you calling it out just pisses them off because it feels like they're not doing a good job masking. So yes, if somebody's smiling and they're not being genuine and it's still better to pretend as if you don't know that they're not being genuine, right? Play along is kind of to your point. Next.
Okay. So there are 7 universal expressions. And when we really start examining how to read faces and see where they actuate their expressions, it's easier to read those micro expressions. So we have sadness, contempt, surprise, anger, disgust, and fear. And which expression is not being represented? Jay?
Well, I'll just go to Loon. What expression is
Oh,
that?
Alex already answered it with
Oh,
happiness. Yes, way to go, Alex. And I
right.
like that. She's just like all over that. So sadness and man, these expressions are so excellent that I can barely recognize the person's face. Do you guys recognize who this is? Sherry's nodding her head. Yes. Alex, yeah. Karen, yeah. So the droopy eyelids, the losing focus in the eyes, and the slight pulling down of the lips. Sadness. So it's emotional pain associated with feelings of disadvantage, loss, despair, grief, helplessness, disappointment, and sorrow. And as we see here, it's the hardest micro expression to fake. Anger, eyebrows down, eyes glare, narrowing of the lips. A powerful emotion people feel.
Glaring nostrils.
Oh, nice.
My ex-roommate told me that one time. He says, I can tell when you're mad, your nostrils.
Man, so yeah, if you feel this in an interview, then life's not good. Yeah, we know we might not get a call back on this one.
Probably not. No.
So lower jaw juts, lower lid is tense. So you guys can read all these details in the slides. Contempt, another not fun one. The lip corner tightened and raised only on one side of the face. So contempt, meaning scorn, a mixture of disgust and anger. You're not going to win on this one.
I will
Hey,
say
how do you
that
respond to
this is the expression I see most in corporate America is that people will have contempt, and it's for a variety of reasons, but they're just not happy with the situation or the information you're giving them, and so that's okay, this is not making my day good, so they're kind of pissed because they don't like the situation or they don't like what you told them. So this does happen, and people do it unconsciously. People do, they're not even aware they're showing contempt, but now that you know this expression, you'll start to notice it everywhere. Next.
So disgust, nose wrinkling, upper lip raised, a response of rejection or revulsion, man, these are all really crappy things that you don't want to happen in an interview. But if you recognize them, you might be able to change the dialogue. So again, it's important to be, Jay's like, no, he's discussing it the way I'm discussing this. So offensive, distasteful, or unpleasant. So again, you see this reaction, you got to figure out a way to change the dialogue, right? Surprise. Oh my God. Happy birthday. Oh man. So a brief mental and physiological state, a startled response experienced by animals and humans as a result of an unexpected event. So right here, the jaw drops and teeth are parted, but there's no tension or stretching of the mouth, just slack jawed. So
What I'll say to this really quick, I'll go back, is
Yeah.
if you're looking around the table and you don't see people doing this, then you know they probably knew if something gets revealed in a meeting, look around the table and people who aren't doing this probably knew the information before it was announced. So that's a quick thing that you can do as a hack. So next.
nice. And then fear, eyebrows raised upper eyelids. And again, this may be something we want to try to avoid in an interview, right? Giving off this look of like, ooh. So the belief that something is dangerous, going to cause pain or a threat. So again, masking that nervousness, very important. And how do we mask that nervousness or get over it potentially? Alex, I'm going to go to you.
How do we I am going, this might not be the answer you're looking for, but I don't really think it's possible. Like to some extent, we are going to display the nervousness. It's just unavoidable because that's just part of being human, unless you're like kind of on the narcissistic or antisocial personality kind of. But honestly, practicing and being confident and comfortable with yourself will alleviate some of that nervousness. And so, you know, you might not word vomit as much like me, or fidget, you know, I'll fidget less and I'll word vomit less. You know what I mean?
Alex, that's perfect. Practice, practice, practice doesn't eliminate, but it mitigates, alleviates some of that nervousness that you're feeling. Perfect.
I am kind of curious though, in the how, and Jay you kind of touched on this, but there are some people that you can't read, and especially in corporate America amongst like CEOs and like the, you know, executives, there is a fairly large percentage that display narcissistic type personality traits. And so sometimes like you just can't read them because there isn't genuine emotion there. You know what I mean? And so it can be super uncomfortable. How do we handle interviews like that where we're not going to get an accurate read?
Tone down as much as possible. Tone down as for you, tone down as much as possible. Because they don't want to deal with a person who's excitable or going to cause them grief. So you need to tone down your personality as much as possible so that they feel there's a stable person that they'll be able to deal with.
And if I may, Jay said this before, you may want to match their energy.
Yeah.
Low energy person and they're not giving away much, you may need to mimic that low energy in order to make them comfortable, because that may be their natural state. If
you really want to do a deep dive, and Alex, you may have heard of this, it's called neuro-linguistic programming. And NLP. And part of what that is matching people's behaviors and body language to make them feel comfortable. The less scientific or version of it is called mirroring. So you mirror their body posture, their tone, their you know, expressions, other things. And that's a good way if you happen to be in an interview with those top echelon E-team type folks. Keep it short and simple. Don't over talk, and mirror and be calm. That's the best
Let them
advice that I
feel
can give
in
you.
control like they want to be, like
That's it, but guys, we
play
better
into it
power
to some
through
degree.
to get to our next break. So let me go ahead and keep moving through. So we know happiness. So the deal though is that you guys can practice this in your next session, in your next out of class sessions, but practice reading people, reading your classmates, practice the happiness, the disgust, trying to really emphasize those techniques so you can really talk through and start really looking for them. So if you practice making it happen, you can practice not making it happen as well. So, oh, yeah. So we've answered a lot of questions. Jay, do you want to?
No, I'm gonna say I think we'll take a break here, but the main thing is, as Bill's already said, practice, practice, practice. What's good is if you guys can get into a room with each other and practice these things. It's like, how do you respond when somebody goes, right? Is that going to throw you off? Right. So what you want to try to do is purposely kind of, you know, make some expressions that just throw the interviewer person off and see how they respond. Because if you're not used to getting not micro expressions, but macro expressions, then how do you deal with that as an interviewee, right? Does it completely derail you? How do you adjust? You know, those are all things to practice. Back to you, Bill.
Pitches down, and then you can practice those. Get really comfortable with each other and getting that thing, that expression of your portfolio down to 5 minutes. And then would you like to hear more about any particular section? You know, and you can go on. But then you can start interrupting each other, going, it's like,
right.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, with that, we have a coffee break. We're a little bit over. It's 8:09. Let me escape and pause the recording wherever that is. Okay, guys, welcome back from the break. There are about 70 slides left that I'm going to go through. I'm probably going to ask for less commentary on this round, just so we can get through and get to any final questions before the week ends, okay? So imposter syndrome part 2. Quick recap. You guys formed a support group with 3 to 4 people, spent 20 to 30 minutes as a team discussing the topics of imposter syndrome. First activity was to actually form a support group. And the way it's suggested to deal with imposter syndrome is to form a support group, get that positive feedback from your classmates, your teammates. Sharing your experiences with imposter syndrome allows you to see your achievements in a more positive and objective manner. And again, you got to practice saying that and feeling that your accomplishments. Support group questions. Do you feel like you've experienced imposter syndrome or a lack of confidence at some point? Have you ever held back from doing something that you wanted to do because of a lack of confidence? If you feel like sharing that experience, you got to do it in those support groups, okay? Can you find any similarities in your experiences with your teammates, with your group mates? I think we've discussed it before. Yeah, most likely you can. The values writing. Lee Honeywell, an advisor for the ADA initiative, supporting women in open technology, created an activity to help, not defeat, but help alleviate imposter syndrome. So you guys should have spent some time thinking about the times when you've been happiest, most proud, satisfied, and which of these values came to mind. So can I get a hand wave or a nod as you guys go through this? Awesome. Awesome. Good. All of this helps reinforce what you're learning in the class. So you picked a value from the exercise. You wrote a couple of sentences about why it was important to you. Again, these could help you with your story stacks, right? When are you most proud? Well, I was proud when I had to learn something that I tried to avoid, right? And so that became one of my story stacks. So do you try to live up to the values that you chose in those exercises? How do you rate that? Having examples of when you have shows that you really agree with it, right? In exercise 4, what was the last topic that someone asked your advice on? One of the things I love about Jay is Jay's always exploring new topics, new ideas. And so Jay has lots of things he can pull from to give advice on. And so having that, those LinkedIn commentaries that he has all the time, I learned something new from someone that I was reading just recently. It's like Jay has tons of these in his LinkedIn profile, and you guys can borrow from his example by doing the same thing, commenting on posts that really impress you and show that you enjoy absorbing new things, new topics, and getting new knowledge. So Lee Honeywell created the activity on the hypothesis that imposter syndrome is a manifestation of stereotype threat. Let's get deeper into that. What is stereotype threat? It's the feeling of anxiety that you get when you're in the position to confirm a negative stereotype about a group that you identify with. For example, this cartoon, wow, you suck at math, versus wow, girls suck at math. So, and thank you for laughing, Alex. I appreciate that. Yeah, so if a woman is aware of the stereotype, then she may feel anxiety when taking a math exam because she's worried about confirming the stereotype. That anxiety can negatively affect her performance. Anxiety can negatively affect any performance, right? And so this is something to think about and really try to keep in mind. Jay, do you have a comment or? No? Okay, cool. So activity 3, all about you. It was inspired by the article, Why I'm Glad I Was Forced to Brag by Jennifer Bloomberg. It's really hard to talk about yourself, and yet it's really important to share accomplishments and promote yourself. Talking about yourself can be especially difficult for women. There seems to be a fine line between sharing your accomplishments and over-promoting yourself. I would say for most or all the introverts in this class, you're not over-promoting. You're just trying to overcome anxieties that have built up over the years, okay? If you ever say, wow, I think I'm over-promoting myself, please give Jay or I a call and have a conversation with us. And I think you'll verify that no, you just aren't in the practice of promoting your accomplishments. So practicing helps to make talking about yourself more natural. So again, your homework this next week, find a partner or group and start practicing talking about yourself. Again, you guys have your networking script. You can expand that from network about a project that you're proud of and 3 bullets about it to here's what I'm proud of in my life. And here's 3 major accomplishments I've had and that I'm really proud of that make me a more well-rounded person, right? You can use that networking script over and over again. Hello, my name is, I feel like I'm really good at this because I've done these things that support that activity that I love doing. It doesn't matter. Just have a script. Jay, I see, please.
Yeah, so this activity, you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. If you tell a story about yourself that's kind of an uncomfortable story, something, no, don't be dark or don't talk about anything you would want to talk about with your therapist, but kind of an uncomfortable situation, you'll see those micro expressions naturally in folks, right? As you're telling the story, you'll kind of see them go, oh, ooh, ah, ooh, what? Or confused or different things like that. So those are those kind of stories that you can use this activity to kill two birds with one stone by watching those natural micro expressions or macro expressions occur as you're telling stories. Back to you, Bill.
Oh, yeah. And then the thing is, though, the story should end with a happy ending, right? You flip the script, you turn this challenge, this negative that you overcame into a positive, and then you watch them smile at the end because they're on your side, man. You overcame something. And so these story stacks that Jay has, typically they're about Jay coming out on top. Man, I was in this really sticky situation. Man, I was really stressed out. But then I told a few jokes, I lightened things up, I got everybody aligned, and then boom, I ended on a strong note, and yay, it's like this really rocky beginning turned into a wonderful ending. And that's where your story stack should typically go. I struggled, I was challenged, but then I rose above it and overcame it, and boom, I'm the person standing before you today. So let's talk about you, part one. Brainstorming, you thought about 3 things that you've accomplished. Why? Are you proud of these accomplishments? What are 2 skills you possess? What are 3 personal qualities that you possess? Just like the portfolio project, you're digging in deep. You're mining for those things that you can be positive and talk about and maybe use as a story stack. Okay? Share your achievements with the group for 2 to 3 minutes. How do we take those major accomplishments in our lives and condense it down to 2 minutes? How might we do that? We use our networking framework to quickly hit those high points that we can practice it and boom, get it out. Would you like to hear more about how I traveled the world over 6 months? Because I can go on for days about that. But I was really proud of it because I traveled alone and I saw 19 different countries. Do you want to hear more? Man. So you'll work on that networking or that achievements script with your group. And then how did talking about yourself feel? Do you have any tips to share about talking about yourself? How do you make talking about yourself feel more natural? Again, we got to practice it. It feels natural. It becomes easier. Do you find that you have a tendency to downplay your achievements? Anyone feeling a little bit of that imposter syndrome? Yeah. So we got to practice it. It makes it feel natural when we talk about our achievements. And then we're able to overcome that imposter to lessen the imposter syndrome. So it's good to monitor your thoughts and practice taking proper credit for your achievements. We all need to work on this. And listing it, getting it on paper, practicing with your group, that is going to help you be successful. So activity 4, creating a 30-second personal commercial. So tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself in 30 seconds, less than a minute. When we have a script, we get rid of the verbal diarrhea. We're concise. And then we say, do you want to learn more? Do you want to hear more about that? And again, we can interact and see if they actually want to go deeper or move to the next subject. Because again, we got 20 to 30 minutes for the interview, right? So I'm not a big fan of this request. I never quite know what the other person really wants to hear. So having a ready answer to this request is a great confidence boost, okay? Having it in your hip pocket, having that practiced, having a framework that allows you to quickly put it out there, allows you to get over the anxiety of that. So what goes in a 30-second personal commercial? Your personal commercial should answer, so what do you do? Answer with who you are, what you do, why you enjoy doing it, and a question to keep the conversation going. Jay, can I pick on you?
Sure.
So Jay, can you give me your 30-second commercial?
Sure. I'm a design strategist to help teams uncover solutions to problems they've been struggling with. It helps me feel really good that I can help teams come with solutions that by working with them as a facilitator, they can, get to those insights and ideas themselves. So it's not me telling people, it's allowing people to find those solutions themselves. And that's really what I'm passionate about and I love doing.
And so what's the question to keep the conversation going?
Oh, a question to keep the conversation going is, I would say, what are you passionate about?
Awesome. Awesome. What gets you to work every day? What do you love about your job? Yeah.
Or
So
or
again-
what's the last exciting thing that you worked on?
Yes. Again, that dialogue, you're not monologuing and hogging up 30 minutes of time talking about yourself. You're interacting. They get to talk about, oh, I love working at X company because we get to do this and I'm passionate about this. Oh man, that sounds really cool. I'm really interested in that too, right? And it keeps the conversation going. So again,
So,
Go
well,
ahead.
hey, Bill, and this may be, so ask me the question again, I'll answer it the wrong way.
Jay, what do you do?
I'm a design strategist.
What do you like about that, Jay?
Pays pretty good.
I'm not going to ask Jay any more questions because I'm worn out. He's managed to suck all the energy out of me. If this is how the interview is going to go for the next 30 minutes, I'm out at minute 3. Just
Here's
so
the
you
thing
guys-
though. Here's the thing. A lot of introverts that I know just answer the question and they don't give any more exclamation or allow for the conversation to continue, because the default is it's like they're on trial and a judge is asking them questions and they'll say, where were you Thursday? At work?
They're way better on trial. Like a lawyer would much rather have that as their client than someone like me that suffers from like diarrhea of the mouth when really anxious. It's not good in court. So usually your lawyer will just be like, shut the fuck up and don't talk today.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Bill. I know we got a few more slides.
Yes,
Go.
yes. Oh man. So your personal commercial should be flexible. Know what you want to say so well that you can use it in whatever situation you're in. And again, we're talking about these frameworks, right? Talking about projects you're proud of, talking about your portfolio, what you're proud of, talking about yourself, what you're proud of about yourself. Very short, quick. You can always go deeper. You want to tell me, do you want me to tell you more about this? I'm happy to. It allows for that dialogue, short and sweet, but it allows you to say, you want me to go deeper? I'm happy to. So the example 1, I run the mentorship program for Chic Geek. The Chic Geek is a Calgary-based nonprofit organization that increases diversity in the high-tech and startup communities by offering coding workshops, speaker events, and other programs and resources for women. I'm excited to be able to connect women with mentors that can help them with their career goals. Have you ever had a mentor? One of the things I love about this example is that she's using a lot of UX and work terminology in this example, so it really feels like she's engaged in the environment. And then mentoring, yeah, connecting people and helping them better themselves. How bad, I think this could almost be Jay's shoe right here. So yeah, so
Email Jay Shoe.
the female J shoe. So yeah, so having that that script will allow it to come out more comfortably. You're not bragging, you're just stating what you do. Okay. So we've used this example before, the personal branding statement. Hello, my name is, I am a UX strategist. The last cool project I worked on was, this project was too. I learned these things. How cool is that? You can use that kind of framework for just about anything to talk about. Cool? Okay. So additional reading, man, with all the links we've given you in this class, this might be 2 months worth of reading, 40 hours a week. So after the class is over, definitely go back and hit these slides again, because you're going to learn so much more than just what we've talked about in this deck, okay? So again, getting back with your study group, you should definitely be using the time for next week during this time period. Set that aside a time. You guys should all schedule it, schedule Zoom meetings, and really focus on everything we've done. Your resume, how do I go over my resume quickly? How do I go over my personal branding statement over and over and over again? Your personal accomplishments, and again, just practice, practice, practice. So closing out, finishing is better than starting. Pablo Picasso is not a hack. He kind of knew, I think he has 7 different distinct art styles. He produced tens of thousands of works over a lifetime. Because even if he didn't like it, he finished it and went on to the next thing. And you guys need to do that too. Ethan talked about, well, I've got 4 other projects I got to do. Yeah, get that first one finished, go to the next, then go back to the first, reread it, finesse it. Just keep going back, because finishing is better than starting. So I love this section. So primacy and recency, how people remember you. Primacy effect, people quickly form an opinion about you based on the initial information they receive. First impressions are lasting impressions. That's a primacy effect. The recency effect, people tend to recall with great clarity the last information more than the first or middle part. You want to end on a high note. So primacy, your first impact with meeting someone, intermediate, not so much, but how you ended that, hugely important. When does this come into play? Your introduction, your brand, your resume, your portfolio, your case studies, your process, your questions, your close, your follow-up. All of these things play a part with primacy and recency. Okay? So, the peak end experience. People judge experiences based almost entirely on how they were at the peak and how they ended. In this scenario, who do you think gets the job and why? Person 1, higher peak in the portfolio, high energy in the second peak, ends on a high note, ask questions.
1 all day.
It's what?
I said it's 1 all day.
1 all day, yes.
I mean, that person, without even hearing the other person, that's like that person gets the next interview and the job.
Yeah, so you can perform like Jay's monotone. You know, you can have it all memorized, you can get it out there, you've done some cool stuff, But if you haven't engaged the audience, you may have just done well. But having high peaks, ending on a high note, asking questions, really engaged, and ending on a high note, man, I really enjoyed meeting you. I loved what you told me about the company. I'm really looking forward to hearing more from you about this opportunity. Thank you so much for your time today. Vigorous handshake and confidence. So rather than average, ending on a low note and not asking questions, which is really ending on a low note, what is asking no questions at the end of an interview signal? Sherry, I'm going to pick you. Turn on your microphone.
It signals no interest.
Yeah. No follow-up questions. Yes. And Brian and Jay will tell you that if you've had a crappy interview, like you didn't feel good about it, leave without asking questions, man. If they're giving you a negative vibe and you're like, whoa, everybody's super stressed out, this is not an experience for me, don't ask questions. End the interview and leave on your way. That is a great way to not get the job, because you didn't want it, because they were like, ugh. So again, the peak end experience, you want to end on a high note. You want to really engage during the interview and ask those follow-up questions. So a common question, do you have any questions for us? So what it really means is this interview is about to end. Are you interested in this job? Will this person help me? I kind of hit it already. Ask nothing if you don't want the job. Ask clarifying questions about the job. Come preloaded with questions. Just so you guys know, sometimes I get nervous. I don't enjoy. Sometimes, it's like I just get rattled. So, man, I will bring my questions written down. Yeah, I do have some follow-up questions. Go ahead.
Here's
Jay.
the other thing too. If you don't get asked this question, it probably didn't go well.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, so if they don't ask you at the end, do you have any questions for us? More than likely, if they end the thing, well, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate your time, and I think that's it for today. Then that's more than likely like it's a no. So just FYI, if they don't have any follow-up questions or ask you if you have any questions for them, it's not 100%. It's a kind of a rule of thumb, but it's a big indicator that the interview probably didn't go the way you want.
And again, Jay, just to reinforce, you can check their body language too.
Yeah.
If they're watching, they have another meeting they got to go to, or they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, but
Sure, that's right. That's 100% right.
So check their body language and see. But if they're low energy all the way through it, and it's like, yeah, they're just done, then yeah, you're probably better off looking at your next opportunity.
Yeah.
How do you know what questions to ask as someone that has zero experience with it, like interviewing in a
Well,
corporate?
it's almost like you had that good transition. And if we don't answer, then we'll do it in after hours. But it's always ask questions. So questions show you're interested. It's a sign of respect. It shows you've been listening. It allows you to follow up, right? It also shows to network. It's an opportunity to network. And it also lets you be remembered. These are all the things that I do all the time. That is one of the reasons why people have a tendency to remember who I am. Next. So possible questions. Here we go, Alex. What is your most immediate need? What skills are you looking for in this position? What are some of your most current challenges? How do you see me fitting into the team? What is your 30, 60, 90-day plan? What is the future vision of the team? What is the next step after this interview? Right? That's a really good one that is positions yourself like, hey, I'm prepared to start tomorrow. So thank you for your time. Do you have any questions? Yes, actually, I'm excited. What's the next step after today? Right? You're kind of saying, hey, I'm a candidate that's worth hiring. Right? So you're already kind of, now you have to be careful about how your tone is on that one, because you don't want to come across as too egotistical, right? But you know, so you can say, oh yeah, what's the next step here now? That did not come across well, right? Because it could come, but you could say respectfully, you could say, thank you so much for your time. Actually, if I were to be considered, what would be the next step? Right? Do you see how I changed that up a little bit with my timing, added a few different words in there
And his tone,
and tone,
very
right?
respectful.
Absolutely. Next.
Let me just say really quick.
Oh, go ahead.
If you guys are doing an introductory job, like you're going in as a very, you know, low level researcher, designer, instead of 30, 60, 90 day, like it may be, what is your 3-month, 6-month, year-long, what would I expect to achieve 3 months in this job to 6 months? At a year, what would I potentially have accomplished, right? So it's like, because you're trying to look down the road a bit, 30, 60, 90 days, you may be still be learning the company. And go ahead.
I'm gonna yes and for that, Bill. I don't know if you even know this. I actually interviewed for Sabre before I got my job, and I interviewed on the training team, and I was too honest, because they go like this. They said, well, how long is it going to take you to really learn all these things about our business? And I said, I don't know, 6 months. And they go, yeah, that's too long. We need you to learn everything in 30 days. And I was like, okay, I don't know who the hell you're hiring, but I don't know very many people that could learn everything they need to know in 3 days. So that department wound up being, you know, gone. But, you know, sometimes if that's the reaction, then it's probably not a job you want.
Yep.
To be quite honest. Next, Bill.
You got it.
Yeah.
So if you feel bold, and so you may have gotten some really good body language, and Brian and Jay, I think, may epitomize this more than maybe early UXers, but again, you know, they put this in here. So is there anything in my experience that makes you think I cannot do this job? Pretty bold, huh? But what are we getting to, Jay? What are we getting to with this statement?
You're looking for, was there anything that wasn't discussed in this interview that needed to be discussed?
So yes,
Right.
just clearing up any final little niggling doubts, right? And then the other, do you need to add any additional details about my portfolio resume?
Yeah.
So again, I'm eager. I would love this opportunity. Is there anything else I can share to really you know, make sure that I'm at the top of the list?
So I would say this is really advanced stuff. To Bill's point, I would not go here until you're really, really comfortable in the in the interview process, because this can completely go wrong. You may actually make the interviewer who maybe is considering you not consider you if you handle these questions incorrectly. So I would say this is like advanced questions. So that's why it says if you feel bold, right?
It may be more for if you have 10 years of design at a company and you're applying for a UX position within the company and you've got the certificate down, and it's like, you know, you're already almost there. So you know the company, and it's really like, I'm close. But yeah, if you have no knowledge of the company, really, people there, yeah, I could shoot you in the foot. Jay,
Or if you don't care if you get the job, go for it. Because then if you're like, I don't want this job, I'm going to ask the question, is there anything in my experience that makes you think I can't do the job? Because they might just tell you. They might just say, hey, yeah, we're really needing somebody who can do this and this and this, and we don't think it's you. And that's really informative, but don't, do that. Like if you really think like you're not going to get the job and the interview went, then ask a question like this, because you never know. They may tell you, hey, this is what we're seeing you're lacking in your portfolio. This is what we're seeing you're lacking in your experience, or something like that. And that can really help you in the next interview, right? So, because you can talk to those points in the next interview. So that, so use that also, right?
Jay, do you think there might be an opportunity to ask a question like this with the viewers being brought in?
Oh yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, because what we're doing is mock interviews. These questions I would ask. I would almost for sure ask these questions in the mock interviews that we're doing in a couple weeks, because this is the information you want, right, from them.
These
This
people
is
are on-
exactly the information. And this isn't a real interview, right? This is just interview practice. But you never know. I mean, put your best foot forward. You can ask this, but I will tell you, some of our students have been hired by people we've brought in to these sessions. So just, bear that in mind as well. Next.
Awesome. Jay, I think this is you.
Yeah. So when you're doing a close, and I love closing deals, that is one of my favorite thing in the world, is closing a deal and getting hired. But hiring managers are looking for self. They're looking for skills, experience, likability, and fit. These are the things they're asking these questions for, to answer these questions. Next. So an example is, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Based on what I've heard, it feels like I have the necessary skills and experience to do this job. Plus, I've liked what I've heard about the company, its direction, and your team. It really looks like I'm a good fit to me. I can't wait to hear from you soon. Thank you so much for considering me. Right now, I read that script. It sounded a little like I was reading from a script. I would probably improv this a little bit for me. So don't necessarily think that if you're not good at saying scripts, get the gist of what you're trying to do, the skills and experience. I like what I've heard. It looks like this would be a good fit for me. Can't wait to hear from you. Again, thanks again for considering me. You see, you know what I mean? It's use the script as a tent post and a recommendation, but say it in a way that's natural to you, right? So it doesn't feel like you're reading a script. Next. So back to you, Bill.
Okay. So again, you all need to practice this, because it just needs to roll off the tongue. And then you got to believe it too. And you should believe it. You guys have gone through an incredible experience here, and you should believe, unless this job is not for you. But typically you're going to interview with companies that you're like, oh man, I'm excited about this. And so you want to practice this and really feel strong about this when you are finishing your interview.
So I'm going to say this to Chris, but I'm going to say it to everyone. Chris, if you don't believe it, neither will they. If you don't believe you're qualified and would be a good fit for the job, they will pick up on that, right? And they won't believe it either. So you really do have to put on your game face go in there and believe that you can do this job. Right? That's something that, because people pick up on vibes. If you don't believe it, they'll pick up on that. Right? They won't believe it either. Back to you, Bill.
Awesome. So follow-up guidelines. The waiting is the hardest part. And I will never sing ever again. Sorry about that. So yes, you've gone through the interview. You're so excited. You had a great interview. You had a great time. But they may be interviewing 5 candidates. They could be interviewing 10 candidates. So it's like you may have been one of the first people they interviewed. So before you leave the interview, ask for the name of a person, recruiter or HR, you can follow up with. Very important to have that contact information before you leave the meeting. This is so sad. It makes Brian cry, and Brian doesn't cry very often. But only 1 of 20 people send a thank you email. So it's pretty easy to stand above the crowd by just sending a thank you. That's it. But Jay might ask, but Bill, what does that look like? So you send within 24 hours, because 19 or 20 people don't do it. You send to your main contact, HR or the recruiter. You keep it brief and express your excitement. Ask about next steps in the process. Hello, Jackie. I just wanted to send a quick note to say thank you for the interview for the UX Designer 2 position. Again, getting those titles right that you interviewed for in a big company is really important to be kind of accurate. It was a great interview. I like the team and think it is a good fit. Let me know about the next steps in the process. Thanks. Me. So short, sweet, easy, right? Easy to do, easy to send out. The first follow-up, send within 2 to 3 days of an interview. So you've sent the thank you email within 24 hours. What's next? The follow-up. Address your main contact by their first name, use the job title and the number, because a lot of jobs may come with a ID number as well as a UX Designer 3 senior. Use the nomenclature to make sure they understand the job. Confirm your interest, ask for an update. Hello, Jackie. I just wanted to express my interest in the UX Designer 2 position, HK 2021. It's a great interview. I enjoyed talking about the Pegasus project. As you know, I'm actively interviewing. Can you provide me with a quick update? Thanks. Jay, will they answer that?
Most of the time. But, here's the thing. If they don't take it personal.
If they're on a hiring spree, man, they may be getting lots of resumes to go through, scheduling time for people, and their day's just full. So don't take it personally. Second follow-up, most likely they'll send you an email to let you know they're still evaluating candidates. Wait 5 to 10 days for this follow-up. People want to know if you know you're interested, plus they have their day jobs to do. So your thanks for the update. I'm excited about this role. I do understand interviewing and hiring can take time. Empathizing with the interviewer, right? Do you have any idea when a final decision will be made, or when you would like me to check back? Please let me know if you have any updates. Super short, super quick. Again, showing excitement, right? But not too much. And then there's no more. That's it. You sent the thank you and 2 follow-ups. What it could mean, they're busy with other commitments. Interviews were done to get a pool of candidates. Budgets may have been cut, projects reprioritized, another candidate may have emerged. You might be considered for another position. What you do is you continue looking for additional opportunities. You guys should always be throwing the net out wide. Reach out to your network for opportunities. Contact a recruiter for potential opportunities. Do not take it personal. It's just business. You might follow up with interviewers after 90 days. Okay, so again, guys, you have a plan. put that calendar in your phone after the first interview so that you have those prompts for you to send out those emails. And then boom, you're interviewing like a pro, right? You've got a script, you know what to do. So, oh crap, I didn't change this slide. So the next week is a real interview. You're going to talk to hiring managers and recruiters. It's not a dress rehearsal. They have openings. So not everyone will, but they hire, and sometimes they have hired from the SMU bootcamp program. So you dress up so that you look good on Zoom. You use headphones and proper lighting on Zoom. Be prepared for a 15 to 20 minute interview. You showcase your resume or portfolio practice over the weekend. You guys got to remember, this is a practice interview, so have fun. Okay? You're not, every interview that I've ever had, it's been pretty rare that my students have gotten an interview the same day. But at the Art Institute, we had interviewers who came back over and over and over again because they knew they wanted to hire students from my program. But that's a rare thing, so expect 2 to 3 and group interviews, right? Interviewing with the entire team. If you get that first interview with the recruiter, the second interview with the hiring manager, the third interview maybe with the hiring manager's team, in order to see if you're a good fit with the rest of the team and see if they have any questions that are specific to their job duties. So the week 3 homework summary, you're going to do micro expressions with your groups and develop strategies to responding to them. You're going to practice your responses. Like Jay said, after you've got your network pitch, your portfolio pitch down, then you can start using those macro expressions to try to throw people off their game and see how they respond, and then talk about, well, I might respond, Chris might respond this way, Lone might respond this way. Both good responses, but it gives you some idea of how other people might answer these questions. So again, getting with your group and talking about accomplishments, practicing your elevator pitches again, tweaking the elevator pitches based on feedback. Is there more homework? Yeah, there's more homework. There's always more homework. Practice your close. Use this template. You got to repeat it over and over. Look at yourself in the mirror and repeat this over and over until it feels natural. Practice your open, middle, and close, and continue to practice. I should put practice, practice, practice.
Is that an interview or a date? Because if that's an interview where you get like a fancy cappuccino that has like a heart in it, sign me up.
We'll do that. So guys, here are where some of our other interviewers have come from. So just keep in mind, you're interviewing with people who are working in big UX departments who hire on a regular basis. And so this is going to feel like an interview, but it's a practice. It's going to feel like a real interview, but again, it's practice. You can have fun with it. You can ask those bold questions that Jay said is permissible. This is the kind of environment you can ask those questions. It's a safe place. It's not a dress rehearsal. You dress up, use your headphones, be prepared. Typically, we do 20 minutes. So you need some time for introduction, and then you get a little bit of time to talk about your portfolio, and you want to ask questions. And practice over the weekend and have fun, fun, fun. Q&A. Did we did it? 9:04. I'm 4 minutes over, Jay.
All right, so if anybody has to officially head out, obviously it's been a long evening, you got a break. We're officially into after hours. I know Alex has some questions. Alex, how are you on time? Do you have a little bit of time?
Yeah, this is like my time. That's why I never sleep. Like last night, I literally didn't go
Okay.
to sleep.
All
'Cause
right,
it's
so
me time.
all right, so what I want to do is we're going to answer your questions, Alex, but I want to give other people a
Yes.
shot that may have to jump off earlier, a chance to answer. Is that cool?
Oh, I'm here for it.
Perfect. All right, Maggie, you had a question.
Yeah, mine just quick. When you're going through kind of like your main points of your resume, like even
Mhm.
tonight, I was having to scroll a lot through like I have like the Xfolio kind of like portfolio. Is
Mhm.
there like a kind of like amount of motion you want visually, like when you're like scrolling through things? I don't know when you're talking.
That's an interesting question. I think what you want to do is allow them to see what you're seeing, but really it's an overview and really,
Yeah.
I mean, they probably read your resume, you know, so if you're doing it though, they may pull it up and look at it. A lot of times I'll let them control the resume
Oh,
looking at it,
okay.
you know what I mean? So they should have a copy of your resume. So a lot of times I'll let them scroll, and then that way that I'm not the one controlling that speed. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So that's in a typical interview, they would probably have your resume and they would have it pulled up or printed out and looking at it. But if you are going to show it, you know,
I just
talk
meant the
through it.
portfolio.
Oh, the portfolio. You said
Yeah.
resume. So
Oh, sorry.
that's okay. All right, yeah, from a portfolio, again, I wouldn't do a lot of scrolling.
Yeah.
I would just kind of talk to the major points.
Okay.
You could, you know, go to a particular area, talk about something that's really interesting. Remember, have those one or two areas that you want to point out, talk a little bit about it, and say, hey, listen, you know, obviously there's a lot of information here. Happy to do a deeper dive if you'd like.
Okay.
Right? You know what I mean? So do that
Yeah.
transition off. So great question though. Sorry, I was thrown by the
No,
whole
I think I
resume
said yeah
thing.
the wrong thing. Thank you.
Okay, that's okay. So
Yeah.
Ethan, what's up?
So, ooh, sorry. So yeah, as kind of like a follow-up to that, as I was going through and Shauna and I were buddied up, you know,
Mhm.
during some of that, we were also kind of going through that scrolling motion, and you know, I understand what you were just saying now, but I guess my question is, should when you're going through these experiences, are you more receptive when someone isn't using any type of like visual aid? I imagine that it would be a yes, especially if they're engaging with like stories and things like that, and just kind of where you were at. But like, I'm one of those people on the neurodivergent plane
Mhm.
that I get distracted as I'm going through and sharing certain like visuals, right? Like
Sure.
for myself, you know, so
Yeah.
I have no
So
problem talking like at
yeah.
all, but
So
but
that's why I'm wanting to do actually the main reason I am doing coaching session is to help people who are neurodivergent. Because what I've discovered is neurodivergent people, unlike neurotypical people, I have found we have feelings and we get our feelings hurt. I mean, we're human. However, we also like really direct feedback. Like if there's something I'm doing wrong, I would rather you tell me so I know I'm doing it wrong so I can adjust. My story stack on this is I had a student at Collin College who was autistic. She was medium on the autistic spectrum, and she could not get past a job interview. She was crying, and so I met her outside of the Barnes and Noble in Frisco Mall, and we sat for an hour on a bench, and I said, let's do some mock interviews. So I did some mock interviews and I adjusted her tonality, what she was saying. I made some comments, everything else. She went out and got 4 interviews and landed every job. She got 4 offers, because what autistic people are really good at is doing what you tell them. So if they want to do if they want to do it, they will do it exactly. And I'll say, watch for my cues, watch for this. When somebody says this or somebody does this, you say this. And so she did exactly what I told her, and she got 4 job offers. Now, the next problem she had was keeping the job because she was such on the autism spectrum. That retail job she had were dealing with customers, and she couldn't fake it forever. Does that make sense? And that's something neurodiverse people have issues with, is we have to eventually be ourselves, and we can't like put a mask on or be on stage 24/7 for a job. So it's a real balance between what are the things we need to manage or adjust to be effective in a corporate environment, and what are the things that we need to just kind of, say, maybe I need to be in a culture that's a little more accepting or a little more open to people being creative or outspoken or very direct, right, in responses. But there are things that I have had to adjust. I've had to manage being in corporate environment. Almost 8 years this year, running my own business for 20, beforehand. So that's what I'm trying to share with people. I mean, literally, I'm thinking about one of the classes is how to survive in corporate America as somebody who's neurodivergent, right? I mean, I'm literally thinking about putting that as a class because I see so many people who are neurodivergent struggling, and it's not a lot. We just have to, Alex knows she has, vomiting in the mouth or whatever. I forget the exact phrase she uses, but the idea is, we can manage it, and then we have to find hacks. And what's really cool is neurodivergent people are great about finding hacks, because we've had to have hacks our whole lives, because our whole lives have been problems we've had to overcome, and so it's just about understanding.
Act like a neurotypical. That's like,
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes. And
that's where that masking and like you always get found out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
My biggest fear is being like having to mask, and then like to the point where you can't,
Well, that's the other thing I'm trying to change, and that may be something I do later, is be a advocate for people who are neurodiverse. I put it on my LinkedIn. I put that I'm dyslexic on my LinkedIn, so I'm not hiding it. If anybody goes to my LinkedIn, they can see I'm dyslexic. And then I'm going to be doing these classes for folks. So what's kind of cool is that people who are not neurodiverse can also learn from these hacks, right? Because what happens is you learn that, oh, I don't know that I inadvertently do these things or say these things that sometimes pisses people off, you may be a very A personality, a very direct personality, only to discover not everybody appreciates that. and we know that because we have people in our lives that don't appreciate us being very direct, and yet we still struggle with that, right? Or if you're a friend of somebody who's neurodiverse, you've been on the receiving end of it, and so you have to manage that. So anyways, I probably went on longer than I needed to on that, but hopefully that helped.
It's like, Ethan, I think part of it too is you say you're good at talking, and I believe it. The odds are, unless you're like, let me show you my wireframes, they may have seen your portfolio and said, wow, I need to bring this person in. I like what I'm seeing. Then they're going to want to see more about what's your process? What are you about? What are you passionate about? And then it may only be like, well, let me show you an example of that thing that you asked me about. And now I'll go to my portfolio and show you. But man, if you're able to talk to your process, and they brought you in because they liked your resume and portfolio, it may just be almost an entirely conversational interview. So you all should think about that. Don't try to rely on your website. Your website should be an introduction to you and your project, and it's really getting to know you. And I would say that this interview in 2 weeks, or these interviews, multiple interviews, are going to be conversational and getting to know you. So do not rely, your portfolio link gets you in the door, but it's your ability to talk about your process and your passions and what you could bring to the job. That's what they want to know.
So
Go ahead.
So one of the ways that I practiced this was in sales. I worked sales for the animation studios. I was responsible for closing deals. And if you talk too much, you can talk yourself out of a deal. You can actually win the deal and keep talking and lose the deal. So an interview is just like that. Only say as much as you need to say to close the deal, so they want to hire you. Don't talk your way out of getting hired. And Ethan, have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right. So I noticed in this class, you've actually been really good about managing how much you're talking. Right. I mean, you put yourself on mute. That's a hack for us, right? Who like to talk, is we mute ourselves. A lot of times we'll use the chat. Some people like Brian don't appreciate that. That distracts them, as Alex found out last week. Right. So, but I do that on online things. I'll use the chat instead of talking out loud to take up space. That whole concept of how much space you take up is really something that if you're outgoing and you talk a lot, be mindful of that. If you're an introvert, it's the opposite. Are you going to be memorable? When they go through your list of candidates at the end of interviewing 10 to 15 people, are you going to be one of the ones they remember? And if the answer is no, you're not going to get the job. I mean, one of the things that I do really well is I stand out. People go, oh yeah, Jay, right? I don't think I've ever been on an interview where somebody didn't go, what about that Jay guy? Now they may hate me, but they're going to remember me.
That's what I was about to say. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's equally as the problem for the extrovert that like stands out, but did you stand out because of it's good, or did you stand out because they're like, oh my God, I never want to be around that person again? It's like equally as bad as being not memorable, like the infamy versus like the just, I don't know, the nobody.
Yes.
You don't want to be
it's fame versus infamy, right? So the idea is you adjust and then you go from there. So go ahead.
I'm like, so you guys know that we have professionals coming in. Are there questions about how to prepare for the interview?
I had a question.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I had a question. So are we able to know who these interviewers are? So just so we can like research what position they held and like kind of tailor our questions towards that specific person?
That is a great question. We want to shock you. We want to surprise you. No, I'm teasing.
Oh.
I'm going to send out the list of people hopefully days in advance. So you guys can do a little bit of LinkedIn research on them. So you can find out some things.
Have you checked your chat?
I did, but I wanted you to be the
No. You can share it with them.
Okay.
That's why I sent it to you. So during this, I was typing up and I found the folks. We may add a few other folks. These are the folks that have reached out and confirmed. So there are all their LinkedIn folks there. So there may be a few other folks, or these may be the few folks, a few other. Well, I've reached out about 10 or 12 people, and a bunch of people had some conflicts for whatever reason. And so, but these are the folks that have so far said yes. Be mindful. Things always pop up. There are a few that just they don't show up for whatever reason. So I may reach out to a couple more and see. Yeah, so this is about the 12, 13 people I reached out to. These are folks that have said yes so far.
So it's pretty awesome.
Does that help?
Go ahead, Aurora.
For the interviews, how is that gonna go? Is it gonna be like one-on-one, or is it gonna be
Mhm.
like two different people, or how's that gonna go?
Excellent question, Aurora. So basically, you're gonna be put into a breakout room.
We're
I
speed
do is like
dating, interview style,
speed dating. So I
on a date in like 8 years, let alone professional one. This is not good. I gotta hop.
Alex, this is not a real date.
Well,
right?
you know what I'm saying.
I know
Well,
what you're saying. It'll
you're
be fine.
practicing. You're practicing with your teammates, and these are practice sessions.
Yes.
It's not real job on the line interviews. It is a practice interview. Okay, so you're practicing. So yes,
And-
you're
and-
one-on-one in a room for 20 minutes. You're gonna most likely, you're gonna give them a copy of your resume through the chat. Most likely you're gonna have a conversation because they're not going to get super deep. They really just want to see how you converse, how comfortable you are, and sort of like get to know you a little bit. It's an introductory type of thing.
Networking?
Will they give feedback? Oh,
Yes, a lot of times they'll give you feedback.
Okay.
What has happened in the past is we'll do a round of interviews. We'll talk a little bit about how the interviews went. I may prompt them. I have in the past for different things they're seeing, different things they want to work on. You know, you all want to work on when you get back in. They know that this is a class. They know that these are mock interviews. So they are here to help you be successful. Does that make sense? So these are friendly. So that's kind of cool that you have people that are volunteering their time to help you be better at interviewing. So yes, they'll probably give you some feedback. And that's why I said at the end of the interview, ask them, say, hey, listen, I'd love for any feedback you might have for me on how I can better prepare for the next interview. Right. And that can even be literally the next interview before you go in and talk to somebody else. And then you have a chance to try those things and see how that works and then ask the same question. I think we try to do at least 3 rounds if we can. Right, Bill? So you'll have a chance to talk to at least 3.
You do 2 hours of 20-minute interviews.
Yeah.
So we're switching you out in rooms. And if you're not in a room interviewing, you're in a break room with your fellow classmates discussing how the interviews went.
Yeah. There is a green room. Yeah, there's a green room.
Into the next interview. So it's really it's just a total complete opportunity. There's not a lot of stress involved. Typically I need about somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes between getting people moved around the break rooms, which is why Jay will ask a few questions. Then I pop you back in the break room. And then typically at the end of the 2 hours, it's like, okay, guys, we want to go around the room and hear about, what are your takeaways from these interviews with our students? And so they'll give you guys some general feedback from what they've heard. It's like, you guys are doing great at this, and I suggest you might want to spend a little more time on this. But they're probably not going to go, oh, Alex, you need to do this. In the general room, they're going to be going like, well, as a group, you guys are doing great with this. You should do more of this and blah, blah, blah. But you definitely want to ask them, be monitoring the time and say, we got 3 minutes left. Do you have any advice for me?
Mm-hmm.
After this, and you want to try to get this, use your time wisely to get that direct feedback before we close out the breakout rooms.
How do we
So,
maximize
and here's
that opportunity by, instead of being so broad, like, I don't know how to say this, like, instead of the generic sort of like, do you have any feedback? Is there a way to be more specific, sort of knowing, like, for ourselves? And if so, how do we know what that is that we should be for our own selves asking?
So you can say, like, you can go back to that slide that Bill, but I would say, hey, after looking at my portfolio, are there any gaps in my portfolio that you think you're not seeing that you would expect to see? Or were there things I didn't cover that if this was a real hiring opportunity, you would have questions on? and give you pause about bringing me on, right? Or what are some of the things after this interview? Thank you so much for doing this interview. Having done this interview, if you were in a real hiring position, what are some of the things that would give you pause about hiring me, or weaknesses or gaps that I need to address so I can do better in my future interviews?
So time box it, you know, and,
Yeah.
and try to leave the last few minutes of the interview for your questions,
Mhm.
you know, and so that way you're able to, you know, use the time wisely. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the term time blindness?
Mhm.
If you're neurodivergent, then you know it well. Can we
Yeah.
set like time, or will there be a timer?
No,
we-
but
No,
you can set
timer.
your own clock or watch. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
just set a timer on your thing. Don't have it go you know, during the thing. That would be kind of weird. But you know, just you can kind of watch your timer, glance down real quick if you need to, just to see how time is,
And
right?
you can tell them,
You
hey,
can say, hey, listen, I've set a timer. I want to leave some time for the end for questions. So if I'm looking down, I'm just trying to keep track of my time. If they notice, because they may observe that as you being distracted, right? And so you'd say, hey, do you mind if I set a timer? Because I want to make sure to leave a little time at the end to ask you some specific questions.
about my
Yeah.
performance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So Alex, I know I'm going to leave time for you. I promise we'll get through all your sticky notes. Wanna throw out other questions from anybody else in the room, because I know we're getting towards that 9:30. Yes, Shauna.
Okay, so whenever I've been in an interview or even just like talking in this class, sometimes I get really red in my face and I'm blushing really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's distracting to me, but like, how do you play that off? How would you, in your opinion, say someone could,
Don't.
I don't
You're
know.
overthinking it. There's Bill and I work with one of the researchers who has the same thing.
Okay.
And she is one of the most senior researchers at Sabre, who's been there, I think, 20 something years. Her face turns red. She's been promoted. Nobody cares.
I get like splotches down my neck, like on my chest. Like it's just some people have it. Just
Yeah.
I learned to
Yeah.
like it is what it is.
Yeah. Don't
can't make it
don't
go.
overthink it. I mean,
You and
you know,
Sean are feeling it, but like Jay said, when you guys practice and practice and practice, and maybe you have your questions written out, you know,
Yeah, I do.
so that you're not, you know, you will be ready. You will be
so
ready.
okay, Shauna, if this makes you feel any better, I have a lazy eye. I've never gone into an interview and said, oh, and be worried about my lazy eye. If my lazy eye prevents them from hiring me, that's not a place where I want to work.
Yep.
If somebody says, did you notice her face turned red? Yeah. What do you think about that? Oh, we
I
can't
didn't
hire
really
that.
even know it. Whenever I was interviewing, it was all on Zoom, and I never really even looked at myself face to face before. But you know, I can feel it, and I get really hot. But
That's what I was gonna say.
it's so distracting.
It's distracting. I was wondering if that was what your question was.
And
like,
embarrassing, and it's embarrassing. And so I get just, you know, I get in it just throws me off.
Yeah. I would say I haven't noticed it at all.
Yeah.
And you know, I think you're overthinking something that's just gonna mess you up. So sometimes what happens is we have these things that just, you know, it's like my lazy eye. It's gonna go out, you know, and I'm like, okay, if somebody notices and they decide they don't want to hire me for that reason, then they won't.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Anyone else? These are great questions.
All right, I want to pick on some people because I want to know where your brain is a little bit at 9:30. So Chris, what are you thinking? What did you learn? What did you take away from today's session that was any aha moments that you got that you're gonna incorporate?
I think mostly just being able to practice, and the aha moments came from actually like going through the portfolio for sure, because I wasn't prepared for it today. So it's always, really terrible to feel like when you go through and you're not prepared for something. So and I hate feeling that way. And so because of that, I think just talking, having more concise points and being able to be prepared and like you said, not oversharing. So I mean, this whole class today was a gold mine of information. So it's all about practicing and putting it into place.
Perfect. Sherry, what are your thoughts? What are your takeaways from today's session?
I'm learning a lot actually. And I was glad to be able to practice, and like they were talking about the portfolios and talking about it. I found myself stumbling a lot, and I can improve upon that. So I'm getting a lot of good cues for the interviews, as far as like how to answer a question that I might otherwise feel stuck on. So yeah, I'm getting a lot of good information.
Good, good. Maggie?
I think it's been good logistically for me because I have never had a portfolio in an interview. So I'm definitely used to not having that other like kind of aspect. So it's just helpful to know that even though you're putting so much time into it, it's not necessarily about like displaying it in the interview, but talking to them.
Yeah.
So I needed that because I wasn't really sure how it went. So
Yeah, it's a conversation, right?
Yeah.
You're not doing a tour,
thankfully.
right? You're not doing a tour of your portfolio. You're
Yeah.
having a conversation with somebody, and if they want to explore more, they can. Lone,
Yeah.
what's going on in your mind?
I thought, yeah, it was really valuable, like last class and this class, to really see like what kind of questions they would ask and what it really means. Because when I tend to like go into interviews, I only think about like what they're like asking that one question, and I don't really
Right.
like branch out to see what the underlying meaning is, and so that it helps me really like have answers that are geared towards like multiple questions that they ask. And I think that's like the main issue that I had with like interviews. Like I was just so stuck in one like mindset about it. But now I have like a broader like awareness of what they're really asking for about me. And yeah, the aha moment was with the case study. Like I wasn't really sure of like how to like really explain my case study. So I was kind of like reading a little bit and I was like, yeah, this is gonna take way too long. And like yeah. And so now I understand like how to go about it and like really just like give us really quick snippet about what I learned and what my part was in the case study.
So, and I hope you guys are seeing that while some of you may come into this class thinking we're going to be very functional, like this is how you do this and this is how you do this in your portfolio. What we're trying to cover is all those soft skills and mindsets and everything else you need. You're always going to have time to tweak your portfolio and make it better and make the content better and design it how you want to design it. It's this stuff that's really important because it's going to make you or break you in the interview. You got the most beautiful portfolio in the world, and if you don't know how to talk to it or haven't practiced what we've been talking about in this class, it's not going to matter, right? Because that goes back to that self, right? They're looking for skills, and likability and fit, right? So it's all those things. Okay, all right. I'm gonna start asking Alex stuff. So does anybody else have anything before we go into all of Alex's states? All right, and again, you're welcome to hang out for as long as it takes because Alex asked some really good questions. So you might
I
get
don't
some.
have that many stickies.
Okay, all right. Talk to me. What do you got?
There's only 3.
Okay, go ahead. Talk to me.
Actually, I think some of them you already answered, but I have to
Okay.
say one thing because
Sure.
Maggie, I just wish one thing that I have noticed just with working with you, like being on like your teammate, is that you, and maybe I see this in you because it's something that I do myself, but you have a tendency to focus more on like the traits that you don't have, like being more introverted and soft-spoken versus like extroverted, just as one example. But you possess so many valuable, likable, like traits and skills that somebody that has the things that you focus on not having just can't have. And I wish so much that you could see, like that you could see yourself from like the lenses that me and I know T and Vicky like saw you from, because working with you as a teammate was so easy. You're genuine, you're talented, you're like, I literally could go on and on. I just wish that you could value what you have more versus focusing on, not being like extroverted or
So,
whatever.
yeah, I think I love this. One, you can have a better cheerleader than Alex, man. She
Yeah,
thinks you're
really.
pretty awesome. That's what I'm taking away from this.
I'm
I
Team Mad Dog right here.
yeah. So I would say instead of worrying about, the things that we perceive as flaws, we tend to overthink about and this goes to you too, Alex.
Yeah.
We tend to overemphasize what we feel is our flaws, right? And our weaknesses instead of playing to our strengths. And I think what Alex is saying is, Maggie, you have so many strengths that those are the things that you want to emphasize and just be happy with what you are and what you have, who you are, and what you're really good at, and play to those strengths. Own it, right? And
That's so
just
embarrassing. Thank y'all.
yeah, no, I mean, just own it, because that's really, and Shauna, same thing, right? Just own your cool stuff. Don't worry about, oh my gosh, I feel like my face is getting hot and my face is getting red. Just own all the awesomeness that you have inside of you, because that's what's going to come through in the interview, right? And talk to what the value you can bring to the table, your energy, your problem solving attributes, all these things in your past that you are just really awesome at. That's what you want to try to emphasize in your portfolio and talk what you're about. Same thing, Alex. You're so worried about what you don't have that
Yeah.
you're not focusing on what you do have. There's an activity I was in a workshop with in which we had to give advice to somebody, and then that person gave our own words back to us,
Yeah.
and you're
Got it,
just,
you got it.
yeah. Yeah. So right. So,
Yeah.
so that's something I would just have you consider too, right? Because you too are pretty freaking awesome, and you let yourself get too worked up about the things that you think you don't have, or the things that you think are really off. And I'm not saying people don't have to manage things, especially if you're neurodiverse. We tend to be a little bit more extreme sometimes on some things,
Yeah.
but you're pretty freaking awesome, because you're super smart and a wicked problem solver, and all those things that you have done in your life have led you to learn how to solve problems really, really well, even some really tough ones, and you've come through, right? And you're continuing, you don't give up, even though life is hard. You keep waking up every day and put one foot in front of the other, right? So that's pretty admirable from a problem solving perspective. So, okay, so what's next? What else you got?
Well, I'll build on that. I'll yes and that, Jay.
All right.
Because that was sort of a turning point today when in the breakout rooms with Aurora. I have been absolutely like, I mean, I don't even like, it's been paralysis, like work paralysis, debilitating, spinning. I wanted to cry when Brian was like, you know how long, oh gosh, Lizzie and I spent on that portfolio, and he said 8 hours. And I literally in my brain was thinking like, that must have been like 24 hours of work. And it was like, oh my gosh, because there's the amount of time that I spend on this stuff, and then I look at what I have, but really what's preventing me is that I'm so focused on trying to be something I'm not and sound like someone I'm not, and I'm fixated on I don't know, like it's things that will come with time, you know, like how you're able to just spout off like, you know, all the lingo, you know, but it comes with experience, and you can't fake experience. And so I think today, whenever like those second round of mock like interviewing, I got caught up, and then I just sort of said, F it, like I'm just gonna be myself, and not like that, kind of turned off that like internal dialogue. And I sounded like it was just genuine, and it felt better. And the thing that's been so difficult is that incongruency. I'm somebody that like integrity is, when I'm not in alignment with like, when I'm being incongruent, like it's crippling. And so my question, I guess, is, that's a really long way to say, when there are those things that you are aware of, like even Shauna like talk, you know, like the getting red. I mean, they're like those little moments where of that put self-doubt.
Yeah.
And they can be like intrusive, you know, and really misleading. Because sometimes I just divert to like inappropriate humor, and that's not going to work in an interview.
Probably not.
Like and I don't want to like pick on you, but one thing I noticed was that for you, because this is human, but I just want to know how you got there, I guess, is like, I noticed that when you had to do the personal, like about you, it was not just like off the you know what I mean? It was not like a muscle memory, just easy. Like the struggle was still, there was that human side of like, this is a person talking about themselves, and it's not easy for anybody.
Yeah.
And how do you balance the two, like the voice in the head that's like, you fucking suck, no one's gonna like you, and this is what you know, where's like the middle ground between being real and vulnerable and human, and being too like, I know all these things and I'm better than everybody, you know what I mean? Where do they come together, and how do they work together? Because mine don't work together, mine like fight each other.
So I think everybody on here, as you were talking, has some sort of what we call imposter syndrome. And it's the where we think we're going to be found out for the things we don't know. And I think if you're neurodivergent, we take it a step further, because I've been told I'm honest to a fault. Like, I don't feel like I'm an expert on something till I've read like 10 books on it.
Oh yeah,
Right?
and
Where
4,000 hours of your life.
right, where most people don't even read a book. They read an article and then they think they're an expert. Right? So I'm harder on myself than I probably should be. And I think all of us still in the room here are probably harder on ourselves than we need to be sometimes. So what I tend to do is I focus on being real and talk about the things that I know I can help. If I just go in there and focus on the things that I say, I know I'm good at this. I know I'm good at this. I know I'm good at this. And if they hire me, I'm going to be really good at these things. Right? I still struggle. Even in my current role, there's things that I have a challenge with because I am dyslexic.
Yeah.
So it is an ongoing thing, and it will be my entire life. Yet I get jobs. And here's something else I want to say. A job interview is not about, you went on and talked about being congruency and being, a job interview is not about this opportunity for you to express yourself as a human being and show you're real and everything else. A job opportunity is about getting a job so you can pay your bills. And you know how to do that, Alex, when you want to. You're confusing the job interview with justifying yourself as a person versus what do I need to tell them so they will hire me? Right? I mean, you know what I mean? Because you are investing this money, you're investing this time so you can get a job. I revealed to you that I got fired twice from my first 2 UX jobs, right? Because it wasn't a good match. And I could have chosen to take that personally. I could have said, hey, I'm just gonna, go back to freelancing and go back to running my own business because that's what I did for 20 years. I'm not gonna lie to you and say there may be some hiccups, there may be some things that you have to overcome, that you have to deal with, but you're going to learn from that, and you're going to take it and you're going to grow, and that is going to help you be better in the long run. So just know this is a journey of 1,000 miles that you're taking, Alex. And what we're trying to do in this class is help you compress that journey as much as possible. Instead of taking it from here to here, taking you, 10 years, we want to go, hey, you're already starting 3 years in, right? With the information we've given you, with the opportunity to practice that, if you were just taking this class or you had to learn all these lessons on your own and get all this information on your own, how long would that take you to get this and to compile the information that we put together for you in this class? It might take you a while, right? To learn these life lessons to the University of Hard Knocks. So we're giving you
I
information.
have a PhD from that
Yes,
university.
you do. So the idea is, and I'm being real with you, right? We're being real, and I'm revealed and being vulnerable and saying, I get it. I'm neurodivergent. I talk a lot. People give me crap, right? About me just being me. And I have the same issues about being authentic and being real. But I've also, let me tell you something though, Alex. Every time I have introverts who don't know me, who tell me that I should be more like them, and that does happen to me, I even now, people reflect back to me and say, Jay, if you were just more like me, you would be a better person. That's kind of what they're saying.
If you would tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is like a nice way of saying, if you would just not be who you are.
Right. If you just aren't you and you just be more like me, you would be a better person. And then I look and say, what have they accomplished? Right? Do they have feature films? Do they have games that have been seen by millions of people? Do they have, this? How many of those folks have done what I've done? I'm pretty freaking badass if you think about it. I mean, who else do you know that's made money as an animator, cartoonist, designer, illustrator, writer, director, producer, right? All these things. And me being me has allowed me to do all those things and be really good at it. I made money at all those things, not just done them, I made money at them. So why am I doing that? Is to brag? No, it's because I often feel like I'm not good enough. And it's a lot of that shame when I was a little kid in school. And, you know, people wondered why I was in 4th grade and couldn't read. Right. And I had to overcome that. I've done some pretty awesome stuff. And if people use me the way I can be used in a corporate setting or a job setting, I can create really awesome results for people. They just need to know how to use me better. And society hasn't figured out how to use neurodiverse people in the way they need to use them yet.
The school system is still trying to stuff the neurodivergent into the neurotypical class and make them act neurotypical instead of teaching the neurotypicals about what neurodivergents are like. It's like, what the fuck are we doing here?
That's
Yes.
what we're having trouble with my grandson as well.
But it's in
He's
the
7.
workplace. It's in the workplace. And my husband's experience in the workplace in corporate America, who's a brilliant mind, and granted, there was other stuff going on as well, but it's like honestly terrifies me because
Well, I mean, part of it is, and maybe part of my life mission is to help people realize that we are potentially some of the solutions for the future.
Yeah.
Neurodivergent people think differently, and we've got a lot of really, really complex problems that we're creating for ourselves in the world today, and neurodivergent people could be the solution. Yet corporate America isn't ready yet or know how to use us because they only know how to use and hire people that they've hired before. And I say this in all my classes: if you want the same results as everybody else, do what everybody else does.
Yeah.
Or keep doing what you always been doing. If you want different results, you have to do things differently, and that means hiring people who think differently. Yet managers are not trained on how to deal with neurodiverse people effectively. And so in Sabre, I've made some strides, but in other ways, people still don't understand the value I bring to the table. Some people do, some people don't. And it's still a struggle even today, even after this many years being in an organization, people still don't understand how to use the gifts that I have to their best advantage. And so, you know, it's one day at a time and it's working, but I'm trying to do things. Like I said, I'm opening up counseling hours. I'm thinking of classes, specific classes that I can do. So you know, just getting back to this, because, you know, that's what we do sometimes is go down rabbit holes.
I know it's hard.
But to get back to this, I think this is an opportunity for you to put your best foot forward and get some real feedback from people that don't know anything about you,
Yeah.
don't know your history, don't know your thing. And again, Brian said some stuff that was really good for you. He said that, you know, some of your triggers are if it hits too close to home, right? For you, right?
Yeah.
So some of your things, so you're going to have to, as an individual, watch for those triggers, because if somebody pushes that trigger accidentally, it's going to be hard for you to manage yourself because you haven't had a lot of practice doing it. Being in corporate America for, you know, almost 8 years, I've had people tell me that I've had to, you know, adjust, or that I have changed a little bit. But what it is I've hacked it, right? We've had to hack our entire lives, and you just haven't been in a situation where you're having to find a hack on how to survive in a new environment and get what you want in an environment. But you can do it with practice. You can do this. It's just going to take time and effort. to learn how to be more effective in like a corporate environment?
I'm hoping, and Shauna, I mean, I don't really, there's a lot of my life that I don't share because, well, you just don't share it with people like an
Sure.
entire class. But Shauna, like Shauna knows some of the things because Shauna and I have had some in-depth conversations and share some common like experiences in our lives, and I'm hoping that my like fight or flight, like trauma response, survival instinct, where I can like just become like emotionless and I go into just like react in a in a good way. Like I'm hoping that that will
So
be
you
good,
need to,
but
you need
I
to,
because Brian, like people, and I'm not knocking Brian, but people with Brian's personality type can be triggering, like speaking of trigger, in it, not even in a conscious way, but where it sets off that like trauma response. And it,
yeah.
I don't want to find myself in a workplace where, especially being an empath and like having that history of severe abuse, which the empath in me is what made me that perfect, like, you know what I mean, target. And Shauna knows this because she's a caregiver in her life. And it can be hard to, and I guess you can probably answer this because you're like, in terms of reciprocity style, like you're a giver.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line, and it's one that I never can seem to like, I always just leap across it between giving in a way that's healthy and is sustainable, and then putting everybody first and all of their needs in every facet of life at the expense, without, you know what I mean, getting anything.
So that's why I'm charging for my time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if I have 2 kids that are going to go to college, so if people really want my time, because
Yeah.
my schedule's really crazy anyway, so if I'm giving up free time that I could be spending with my family, I'm charging for my time, which gives people that really need it and / want it.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation. I get to make sure my kid has a place to live, right, for college. And then I can help people who really need and want the help, right? And they can make a decision as to how often, how much, you know, they want my time. And I'm doing that because there's only one of me. There's only 24 hours in the day. And I normally chew up, 10 to 12 of those hours doing other stuff that I'm giving my time for. So, yeah, you bring up a really valid point. And I think though the solution is maybe similar to the solution that I have come up with, and this may work for you, it may not work for you, but I talked about it, is I develop an onstage persona. It is me, but
Yeah.
it's corporate Jay, it's presentation Jay, it's this Jay. So I'm still authentic. It is a version of me, but it is a different version of me that allows for me to get paid, right? And that's
The like masking kind of.
it's I would say it's a role. I mean, masking infers
Or
that
adapting.
you're trying to hide something.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Alex, if I were to say, hey, I need you to go in front of a group of 10, 9-year-olds, you could manage yourself and control yourself and not, you know what I mean? You would adapt to the people in the room.
That's easy for me. I got that one handled.
Right. But okay,
It's
now
corporate America where I'm like,
now instead of it being 9-year-olds, it is 40, 50, 30, 40, 50-year-olds who you're going to scare the hell out of if you just be yourself all the time. And that's the thing I had to realize is I'm a 6'4", big guy, man. If I'm completely myself with no filters or no whatever, I've literally had business partners that were afraid that I was gonna like beat them up because I got so passionate about stuff that was going wrong.
That
And
happened
so,
to my husband. He's like 6'5" and a big ass dude and on the spectrum.
yeah,
And before his job ended, like the schizophrenia was getting, the paranoia was getting really bad. And it was like surrounding some of work, and he misunderstood, like, but he didn't perceive like correctly what was being said,
yeah,
missed those cues and reacted, and like he wasn't gonna harm anyone, but like he's a big dude. It doesn't take much it just takes a slight influx of voice to like
yeah,
scare people. So I totally see what you're
yeah.
saying,
So
that I'm the opposite. I'm that woman, and it's like the female and the woman in the workplace that you don't want to be like the loose cannon.
right, but you also have a strong personality, so you can even scare some of the introverts in the room if you're not careful, because you have no qualms about sharing your peace of mind. You have no qualms about calling out the elephant in the room. If you see something that is wrong, you call it out, and you're expressive and emotional about it. And not everybody is capable of handling that kind of interaction, right? And like you said so yourself, I mean, even people that are close to you said, hey, you're yelling, blah blah blah. I get that too. My wife, I've been with my wife 29 years, and she tells me, why are you yelling at me? I go, I'm not yelling at you. I'm
It's
just
like
having
we're
a conversation.
loud. It's
Right.
called neurodivergence. We get louder to drown out the sensory input so I can actually focus on what the heck I'm trying to say.
Right. So those are things we have to manage, because we can't do that in a corporate environment, right? We wind
Yeah.
up in HR. So that's the thing that, I'm not gonna lie, you're gonna have to learn how to develop your on stage persona. And that is gonna take some work and practice. I do believe you can do it. I do believe you're gonna have to look for the right type of role that allows you to have a certain amount of time with people and a certain amount where you don't have to be with people at all.
Yeah.
I would say that is a more ideal role for you, because then you're not having to try to not be yourself for 8 hours a day. Does that make sense? Where you can just say, okay, for the next 2 hours, I need to just manage myself and put on my persona and do this and be the job. I mean, it's like being on stage in a play or being a flight attendant or any other jobs. You would have to, for the duration of that flight, you would have to say, what can I get you, sir? Even though you may be thinking,
Let's just hope it's not an international with no.
yeah. So, anyways, does that help?
Yeah, I mean, it does, because and I'm also a little afraid of getting boxed in. Like, I am finding fascinating the sort of like more strategy side of things.
Yeah.
Like the challenge, like, am I good with some of the, I mean, visual stuff, just like graphic stuff, the more like kind of UI-ish side of things. Like, I can do that. User research, like I'm good with that, with just reading people. And it's not that I don't not enjoy it, but something that's new for me and that is a challenge, in which I like challenge, is the fact, and what I love about UX is that it's this like where doing good in the world and making money come together, versus like this dark, nasty marketing that tricks people. Like, it's just, and then makes, you know, executives a whole bunch of money. It's the idea that like good can be done and helping others
Mhm.
and success, because for me, that's like, that is what I value, you know, in terms of like
Yeah.
what my values are. But that challenge of how do I convince like executives that are just worried about the bottom line and business, and while like focusing on this is like what the user needs, and we can make both the user experience better, and we can do that and drive business success versus tricking people into buying your product. Like that part is really,
Compelling.
yeah, but I don't know how to build on that, I guess.
So what I think is some area that you may consider is owning who you are and just looking at disability and focusing on seeing if you could be potentially, if there are jobs out there where you really fight for the rights of people with disabilities,
Yeah.
right? And find UX job where they know who you are, and that whole organization is about helping people who are neurodiverse or have disabilities, because I can tell you, I can tell right now that you would care a lot about helping those people and you'd be really passionate about it. And no matter where you land, managing some of the personality traits that we have are going to be essential, even for the most open environments.
Yeah.
It's just there are certain things that you're going to have to manage in order to do the good that you want to do. And remember, I think I've said this, you know, the opposite of fear is desire. If your desire is strong enough,
Yeah.
then you will figure out a way to manage the things that you know you need to manage to be able to do the good that you want to do. And that is how I have managed at Sabre, because I know that I have created impact and change and helped a lot of people at Sabre. Um, it's still a struggle. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes it's still a struggle for me, but there are always new things for me to learn, and it's probably going to be that way as long as I'm above ground, right?
Yeah.
That I'm still going to have things to do. But you know, that's why I'm saying I'm trying to share the information I've learned. I'm trying to coach as best I can. I'm trying to help folks just like you be able to find a way to take care of their families and then still for fulfilled in a job that they feel it has passion and purpose can be put to good use, right?
Well,
Because
you're succeeding in that
thank
mission.
you, thank you,
I can
thank you
tell
very
you
much.
that for sure.
Okay.
My newest audiobook that I'm listening to / reading, not really reading, is Adam Grant,
Oh yeah,
and the give or take, or
yeah,
give and take. It's like reciprocity styles within the workplace.
yeah.
And it is fascinating. Have you read that book?
I have not yet. It's on my reading list, but I haven't. But I
You
have a
need
bunch
to.
of his books.
Oh my goodness, because literally it's like, so I honestly didn't think that being a giver would actually, like, I figured that would be like the bottom of the, and yes, the takers, they get to the top faster, but like the givers, they get to the top and then they stay at the top, and they still have their like integrity and like their, and it makes me feel better, because ultimately, like, I think sometimes I come off very harsh or like even sometimes disingenuine, like, but it like my caring about others like truly is genuine.
Mhm.
But I've spent enough of my life not living in a way that makes me feel good, and I just like, I can't, you know what I mean? Like I have to be authentic. So I just want to, I think you're right that finding that space, sort of like you've done, kind of just forging the way for yourself and making it work. And sometimes that's probably gonna mean getting fired a couple times also. Like, I mean, there's just things that aren't gonna work, but I'm hopeful, I guess, but I'm like terrified at the same time at failing.
I would think, yeah, the failure, especially for folks like you and me, that's a big deal because we never want to fail, and we feel that hurts us really, really hard, maybe even harder than maybe some people feel it, but who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
But I really think that if you focused on accessibility and disabilities because of your background, because of all your experience you've had, it would be authentic. And if you can find an organization or a job where that was part of the job and they knew and used your background as an asset to helping them understand and get things, that job exists out there. It may just take you a little bit longer to find it. And while you're trying to find it, work on how can I fit into corporate environments better. And like you said, it may take you 2 or 3 tries before you kind of land somewhere where you finally get more practice and used to it and stuff, so just understand that it's a journey and it's one worth pursuing. My personal feeling is, Alex, you're going to be okay. You're going to figure this out. You're a survivor. You're going to make this happen. And it's just going to take a lot of work and some time, but you will do this. Okay. It's not going to happen overnight. You and I both know that.
I just
But-
want to thrive instead of survive. Like I've been
That's
living
right.
survival for so long. And like, where's the part where you get to where you're at, where like you're actually like, yes, some days probably feel like survival, but like in the broader picture, like you're you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Do you do product development at all? Or like start, like I've had so many ideas since coming in here and they've all been around accessibility and like disability,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know what to do with them.
Well, let us call it a night because it's almost 10:15. But let's just say focus on doing the focus on doing what you need to do for a couple weeks from now. Let's
Yeah,
just
I've got
focus
that.
on that, and then afterwards, let's we'll figure out some other stuff, or we'll talk more, whatever. But the idea is get this done, do the best job you can, get some real feedback, in a couple weeks on just where you are right now, and then see what you need to work on. Because these folks that are going to come, I think, are going to be pretty authentic with you and give you some good feedback, at least how you're doing on the interview process. Let's get the job first and then figure out how to keep it, right?
Yeah.
So the first step is, how do you get the interview so you get hired? Because you're never going to be able to contribute in that meaningful way if you can't get a job, right? If you can't get hired. So let's have step 1 be, let's figure out how you get through the interview process, right? And get a resume and something and get that done. Then let's focus on what's a good fit for you, what would be a good organization, what would be the qualities of the organization, what would be the role, what would be the specific thing, and then do that and then work from there. Does that make sense? Because when those 2 things match up, then you're going to be, Jay, this is so awesome. I can tell you almost all the people I've mentored and everything before have been neurodivergent as I'm looking back in my life, and all of them are doing really well now. I mean, it took some years,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to lie. It took sometimes 3 or 4 years for them to get from where I met them to where they are, now, but they're all doing really well, and it's still growth. It's still, Lizzie is neurodivergent, and
Yeah, I
she,
can tell just from her just from her profile. I know it sounds terrible, but like
yeah,
wait, you know what I mean? Like you get to where you
yeah,
just
you can
know.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but so those are things. And again, let's play it by ear. All right. Life is a journey. And I truly believe the universe put me in this class to connect with you because you needed somebody who understands you better than other people, who has figured out a way to be successful, right? And then my goal as I'm 53 is to help more people be that way, and then fend for themselves, right? And that's why it's it's creativity, it's innovation, and neurodiversity. Those are things that are all authentic with me that I can talk to and I think coach people on. And what's really cool is most of the people who are neurodivergent are innovative and creative,
Yeah.
right? And then it's just a matter of how do I connect those people who have these really great ideas with people that can help them execute on it and make some money. Right? At the same time, we're helping make the world a better place.
I just hope we can all keep passing it on to one another.
Well, in a weird world, I would be like the leader of the neurodivergent League of Super Friends, and going, I know what your superpower is. Let's just use that.
I
Right.
think we all find each other some way or another. Like it's just a neurodivergent thing, but I just really appreciate your time. I appreciate like you've been really I have not quit this program because I've because you're in it, like I've been able to relate to you on a deeper level of just like some of the similar struggles of just
Sure.
how our brains are wired. And so but honestly, everybody, all of you guys, there's just a lot riding. It's not
I
just
get
a
it.
career. I have no choice. My
I get
family
it. And that's why
literally needs the money and they need the health insurance. And it's
you will, if it's
terrifying.
important to you, you'll find a way. And if
Yeah.
not, you'll find an excuse. You have to make this happen. So
Yeah.
you are going to find a way.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if you found a way, I could find a way.
That's right. That's
I
right.
appreciate it, Jay.
Yeah, I'm in
Really
the same boat as you. If I don't make money, my family doesn't eat.
Yeah.
Same thing. So, all right, get some sleep. I know you need it.
I need it. You do the same.
All right.
And I'm gonna bust my ass over the next couple weeks and get as much as I can out of these interviews. I may send you a few things that I have questions on, how I can
Just
develop a little bit.
Sure, I've got my own craziness going on the next few weeks, but LinkedIn will probably be the best way. And I can't promise a lot of time, but I'll do the best
It's just
I can.
super simple, a couple resume questions that are probably very straightforward, but I haven't been able to get the feedback from peers on it.
Okay. All right. Remember that Bill guy is still out there too, and he loves doing that.
Bill's my hero. This program keeps going because of Bill.
That's right. All right.
Good night. Jay. Thank you. All
right. Bye-bye.